Well, hello, my baby gorillas, and let's see if this is working. Let's have a wee look, see if I'm on. Not even on, not even put me on my own homepage, never mind anybody else's. I mean, really, honestly, come on, YouTube. Hiding my work, you know, my God. 3 watching already, what's happening, troops? Oh, hello, we're in, haha. Well, hello, my baby gorillas. I'm not keen on this camera, the camera looks a lot better here than it does on that. It's weird the fact that that's not coming through as clear as it does look on the actual camera. I don't know what it's like on your side, but it looks clear. Hello, hello, how are we doing? So, let's have a wee look. Let's pop the chat, guys. Let's see what's happening here. Pop the chat. Wait until, if this doesn't give you chills, I don't know what will. Let me just turn up this. See if the volume's better. Let me just check. I mean, really, honestly. Come on. I don't know what it's like on your side, but it looks clear. Hello, hello. It looks like it's pixelating slightly. So, let's have a wee look. Let's pop the chat, guys. Let's see what's happening here. Pop the chat. Come on. If this doesn't give you chills, I don't know what will. Let me just turn up this. See if the volume's better. Let me just check. I mean, really, honestly. Is the volume better, a bit higher? I don't know what it's like on your side, but it looks clear. Hello. Is it clear? Is it? It looks like it's pixelating slightly. So, let's have a wee look. Let's pop the chat, guys. Let's see what's. I don't know why it's pixelating though. Come on. If this doesn't give you chills, I don't know what will. Let's try and change the settings here. Wonder if it's this. Let me just check. I mean, really, honestly. Is the volume better, a bit higher? I don't know what's best here for the settings. I want to get you as good a look as possible, guys. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know why it's pixelating. That looks worse. Let's try and change the settings here. I wonder if it's this. Let's go down one and let's get rid of that to that. I don't know what's best here for the settings. I want to get you as good a. Don't know if this is coming closer. I don't know what's happening here. Is that better? That looks worse. It looks better there. Let's go down one. What's happening? Don't know if this is coming closer. Right, that's enough of you, mister. What's happening here? Is that better? Volume seems to be turned up very high. It doesn't seem to be going through as much or very loud. It's weird that, isn't it? It looks like it's a bit tenuous. I don't know what the thing's like on your end, guys. Is it, let me know what the volume is like and let me know everything else. Okay, let's crack on. This seems very high, this. It doesn't seem to be going through very well. The volume, don't know. Pass. So, let's have a wee look at Dopey Joe. Weekend at Bernie's, 2 stacks. China 2 stacks. And let's see what he's saying now. Oh my God, it's like the worst politician you could ever elect, times 10. I mean, really, honestly, wait till we see. Come on, let's go. Weekend at Bernie's. Where are you? Let's go.
I talked to Xi.
He's giving us a couple of stacks.
Xi Jinping in China.
Oh, well done, well done. Does he know what you're talking about? Does he go, oh, thank God, 2 stacks is in the White House now, not Donald Trump that was doing a good job.
Who I know well. We don't agree on a lot of things.
Well, I especially don't agree when he's giving me money. I think he should give me more than 2 stacks.
Bright and really tough guy.
Was he? That's what happens when you're a totalitarian communist dictator.
He truly believes that the 21st century will be determined by oligarchs.
I think you mean autocrats. I think that's what you mean, not oligarchs. What's that? The people that run the oil are going to control the world, even though we're trying to get to non-carbon CO2 emissions. The oligarchs, which is the oil magnates, are going to run the world, are they? I think you mean autocrats, Joe, not that you're going senile or nothing.
I'm not a joke.
Yeah, I'm worried about you becoming an autocrat. Well, that's your trajectory with your socialist pals and your BLM and burning down the country.
Democracies cannot function in the 21st century.
Oh, democracies can't function in the 21st. Is that the globalist agenda, is it? So we all just put our trust in Dopey Joe, who doesn't know if it's New York or New Year, who's been bought off by all the large corporations that, the little people who have burned down the buildings, kept them in for the last 18 months on a virus, 99.9% survivable, and will cancel anybody else who objects to our policies. Right, so we're going to all put our faith in Dopey Joe, and Dopey Joe is going to dictate to us what he thinks the world should be. Yeah.
Your argument is because things are moving so rapidly.
Yeah, well, not your brain anyway, mate. Not your brain.
So rapidly.
Certainly not your brain. You're struggling to string a sentence together.
That you can't pull together a nation.
Or a sentence.
That is divided to.
Oh, right. Maybe you should have divided them. Maybe from the communist from BLM who was burning everything down to Antifa before that, taking control, probably being paid off by China, you taking 2 stacks through your corrupt son. I don't know where to start. The media covering from you, the technocrats in Silicon Valley blocking people who are more intelligent than you and put a better argument forward, and boosting idiots like AOC so that we can put our trust in a senile old geriatric. Yeah, all right, I see. And we'll get you to run the world. Oh, Jesus. And you're the most popular president ever.
You had a consensus on acting quickly.
Oh, is it? Oh, listen, I've got an idea. Why don't we just have a one world government and let you, Putin, and Winnie the Pooh actually form a one world government and have a one world currency? How about that? How about we just bypass actually democracy and just go straight for dictatorship, Dopey Joe? Weekend at Bernie's. Why don't you do that?
So autocrats, autocracies. I had a long meeting with Putin, and
I don't think you're going to survive very much longer to become an autocrat.
Continued. I know him well.
Oh, we're going to get Kamala. Kamala is the autocrat. Oh, you better be careful what you wish for.
These guys actually are betting, I'm not joking, on autocracy.
Oh, I bet you they are. Of course they are. We've got the Communist Party, and I don't even know what Putin would be on the political spectrum. I mean, he is just an autocrat, not an oligarch, you idiot. An autocrat, which he is, but I don't know where he would be in the political spectrum. Maybe a fascist, maybe almost like a corporatist. I don't know if he's a globalist, but certainly they're not far off their globalist plans anyway. So we've got America now telling us that, we've just destroyed small and medium-sized businesses, so all the transfer of money is going to large corporations, and now Dopey Joe from the whoever party is now saying that democracy is not going to work. We're going to take your guns, and it's better for me to be a technocrat. Yeah, I would be very concerned if I was in America just now. Well, it's bad enough in the UK.
Oh, they're making bets, all right. We're back with Senator Ron Johnson. That was President Biden at a CNN town hall on Wednesday, kowtowing to China and Russia once again, saying that his buddies Jinping and Putin believe that oligarchs and autocrats will dominate the 21st century. Senator, my question is, what is he doing about it? How would you assess...
he's want to join them. That's what he's doing about it. He's thinking, this is great. Yeah, I don't have to answer to anybody. Only the voices in my head, that's it. And finding out if I can how to put my pants on, one leg at a time. He's thinking... these guys, the Russians, the Chinese are great. Don't have to be democratic anymore. That's a great model for my presidency. And certainly, I don't have to be held accountable to the 6 people who own all the media in the UK, in the US. Not dissimilar to the UK.
U.S.-China policy.
Oh, my first thought when he said
you talked about a divided nation. He should stop dividing this nation.
Yeah.
He's done nothing to unify and heal this nation, as he
Racist Marxism.
said in his inaugural address. The other thing we need to do is we need a strong America. And you don't strengthen America by weakening it with this massive debt and...
He's going to print more money to reduce inflation. I mean, or no, it's not debasing the currency or anything. It's not doing that at all and making certain people richer by reducing the value of the currency and the money in your pocket. That's not the objective at all.
Additional new entitlements, more deficit spending. We actually have to concentrate on having a powerful military, and the Biden administration is doing everything they can to weaken the military. We have massive, double-digit increases in every other aspect of the budget. But,
there's Winnie the Pooh and Two Stacks. Oh yeah, man. Think your autocracy's great. Yeah, fostering goodwill between America and China. If you get any more of those stacks, Winnie the Pooh, can I stick my hand in the honey pot anymore, Winnie the Pooh? Oh, Mr. Pooh. Oh, yeah, Joe, we'll get your son on a few Chinese businesses. Yeah, we'll funnel the money that way, Joe. Yeah, everybody says you're senile, but you seem to know where the money is at, Joe. Yeah, that seems much better. Don't have to deal with any of these pesky individuals and democracy. Yeah, that's great. Oh, very good. Yeah, 2 stacks. So... yeah, fostering goodwill between America and China. Where's my stacks? I'll weaken the military. I'll be senile. And yeah, I'll encourage Antifa, communist organization, and Black Lives Matter, another communist organization, to take over. And then I'll have a democracy. I'll have dictatorship just like yours, Winnie the Pooh. Mr. Pooh. Oh yeah, that's great, Joe. That's great. I don't think you belong here long enough to get much more of that democracy or that autocracy that me and Putin have been doing.
Increases in both defense and Department of Homeland Security, they're de minimis.
2 stacks, I can't believe you're in the White House. Oh, just the way I planned it, 2 stacks. Oh, just the way I planned it. We managed to cripple those 6 people that own all the media in America. And, yeah, we managed to get some money through your son, made sure your son's crack smoking, sexual exploits with kids, and being in charge of Ukrainian oil fields was kept out of the papers. Fantastic. You managed to get the biggest number of votes, even though you're senile, don't know where you are. Ever, not through postal vote fraud or nothing, no.
Increases in both defense and Department of Homeland Security, they're de minimis. They won't even keep up with inflation. So, in fact, we'll actually be reducing the size of the military and DHS from a budgetary standpoint, according to Biden. And then you look at this.
Hello, Winnie. This is my pal Winnie. He's a dictator.
Crawling back.
We'll get Winnie to build everything, and they can we'll pay them all their debt, and we'll live on. No exports. We'll burn down our own businesses for the racist Marxists. Yeah, it's great. Fantastic.
The deal with Iran, what he's doing in Afghanistan. I mean,
yeah, fuck Afghanistan. We're pulled out of there. Let the Muslims fanatics take over.
Travesty that's going to create. He's just showing weakness globally, and our adversaries notice that, and they will act on that.
There was a lot of news pertaining to...
Right. Absolutely mental. Absolutely, mainly peaceful burnouts. Mainly peaceful burnouts. Says it all. The best Democrats can put forward. I know it's not exactly spoiled for choice. AOC, she's not even get the requirement for being senile. She's just the dumbest girl in the class. Attractive, but thick as a box of rocks, isn't she? Oh my goodness! But we need diversity. But you're not very good. But it doesn't matter. I've got a vagina. I mean, really, honestly, Jesus. So let's get to what the main event here. Are the Green... Let's see if anybody's done this and see if we can nick some. Are the Green Party communists? Communists. Oh, there's Lana. There we go. Are the Green Party communists? See, we got what else we got? Oh, here we go. Let's see the 2017. I'm going to go through the current one. But let's see. Let's.
So, the Green Party have released their manifesto. Unlike the other parties, their manifesto is pretty concise.
Oh, this is from tldrnews.co.uk. So, thanks very much. I'll try and speak as much as possible.
Pages. However, regardless of this, only 27% of people read parties' manifestos.
27%. So obviously we went through part of the SNPs, but we didn't get around to the Green Communists.
And I'll run you through the key policies of the Green Party's 2017 manifesto.
Thank you very much.
They want to introduce a wealth cap on the top 1% of earners.
They are communists, aren't they? Oh, wealth cap. And what will happen when you put a wealth cap on? People will just go abroad. That's it. I'm right, okay, you're going to get a wealth cap in the UK. Right, so what I'm going to do is go and live in Monaco where I'm not going to pay the wealth cap. What are you going to do then? So you're just going to drive money out. So another brainless idea.
Reinstating a higher level of corporation tax.
All right, so we're now not suffice with the COVID. And to actually, so this is anti-business. So this isn't a pro-business agenda. This is an anti-business agenda. So we're going to, as well as reinstating a higher level of corporation tax for larger businesses. So what does that mean? So that means that the larger businesses are going to be global, probably, because the larger businesses in headquarter where there's lower taxes. What are you going to do then, Green Party? So you're just pushing the tax base out of the country. So more daft left-wing economics. I mean, they're idiots, absolute idiots. I mean, we already know this doesn't work.
Businesses. The Green Party wants to move towards starting a universal basic income.
So again, rather than the negative income tax from Milton Friedman, we've got a universal basic income. So everybody from the poorest is going to get paid as much as the richest. So it's going to be like, say it's £400 a month on this anyway. So the richest people are going to get taxed to pay for probably the poor people because they were paying less or no tax. Then from the universal basic income, they're going to be given £400 per month again, which is then going to be taxable again. So they're going to get taxed, given the money back or part of the money back, and then re-taxed again to fit into the universal basic income. And rather than having a negative income tax which goes down the more you earn, so the less money you've got, the more you earn, the more you get from the negative income tax until you're actually earning enough that it's going to be negligible. That's the best way to do it. But obviously, more brainlets from the Greens.
Gives everyone a set amount of money every month.
So it gives everybody. So why would you want to do that? That's almost like a poll tax based on taxation. So why would you want to do that? It doesn't make any sense unless you're talking ideologically that you want to treat everybody the same regardless of their wealth. But all that's going to do is push the prices up because everybody's going to have increased money. Rather than targeting the people that need it.
This is actually something we're going to make a whole video about after the election.
Please do.
Phase in a 4-day working week.
Oh my God! So the state is going to force companies to only work 4 days. 4 days. So that's going to take billions of pounds off of the GDP. And why is the state? Why is the Green Party just authoritarian? Why is it's a very authoritarian measure? Why is the Green Party trying to dictate to business? Now, I bet you none of these clowns have actually even started a business.
As well as abolishing zero-hour contracts.
So I'm not 100% au fait with zero-hour contracts, but it probably gives employers flexibility on employing people.
The Greens want to increase minimum wage to £10 an hour.
Right, so that's definitely a job destroyer, £10 an hour. So the Green Party, who none of them have actually probably ran a business, all of these are job and wealth destroying policies. Every one of them so far, and we're not even out the economic section. I mean, really, honestly, it's absolute brainless stuff. The The Greens want to increase the minimum wage to £10 an hour. So I had this conversation with Colin Fox. If I've started a business and I've only got a set amount of money, is it not better to get a person employed on not £10, whatever I can afford as a business or whatever the business is generating, than it is to pay them, get a minimum wage, unless this minimum wage doesn't kick in until you're a medium or larger business. Because in startup businesses, this is a destroyer of business. Unless the state is going to pay for this minimum £10. And why is the state dictating what a business should pay somebody that's none of the state's business?
They also want to require that a minimum of 40% of all members of companies' boards are women. So
not based on their ability, just I've got a vagina and I should be on the board. So I should be in the 100 metres final at the Olympics, not because I'm a white man and it's all full of black men, probably majority from West Africa. So, but not because I should be there, just because of, just because. So we're going to use draconian measures and say that these women go on the board and the companies start to fail because, again, none of these brainlets in the Green Party have ever started a company, have ever worked in a company. They're just going to use the state like true communists to actually push forward this not based on meritocracy, or say for instance, see, I wouldn't discriminate when I was employing a man or a woman. I would see who the best person was. But say that you've got a business and only guys applying, whatever reason, maybe women just haven't seen it or they don't fancy it or whatever, and only guys apply. What am I going to have to do as a business owner? Am I going to have to go out and force women into my boardroom? Whether they like it or not. I mean, really?
The Greens want to introduce an Environmental Protection Act to safeguard and restore our environment, as well as protecting and advancing biodiversity.
I agree with that.
Promoting sustainable food and farming.
Okay, I agree with that.
Ensuring animal protection.
I agree with that.
They also want to make communities safer by investing in insulation and flood management.
Okay, that's all fine in that one. They
also want active ongoing cooperations with businesses and other countries to limit global temperature increases to well below 2 degrees.
Right, so you've your CO2 output and things that take up CO2 like planting trees and other things that will reduce if it's CO2 that's causing this greenhouse gases. But you just plant more trees. So why don't you just plant more trees to suck up the CO2? And if you're going to do this, I've already said to this, and I don't know how many times I have to say it, CO2 emissions by country. So here we go, up to 2017. I've already done this several times.
I want a cookie dinner. I want a chicken tikka masala extra spicy delivery.
So unless you're dealing with China, which is double the size of United States, that's 2017, it's up to double the size, which again is double the size of India. So between those three, that's the nearly 20 million tonnes, and if you're including Russia as well, 20 million, I think it's by the tonne, is 1,000 tonnes. Of CO2. So unless you're addressing maybe the top three, maybe in Japan as well, Germany. But if you look at the United Kingdom's halved its CO2 emissions. So even if you're tackling the UK and it went to zero, it's only at 379. I mean, that's only a fraction of the total from China. And it seems to be, and the UK seems to be falling in its CO2 emissions. Very soon, I'm sure it'll be carbon neutral or carbon positive. where it's actually sucking up CO2 emissions. But plant more trees. You as an individual can go out and plant a tree. You don't have to wait for the state to go out and do something positive. If you're really serious about changing the CO2, have a plant a tree today where you actually start to plant trees, and that sucks up the CO2. The growing tree sucks up the CO2 and stores the CO2. I don't know what's so difficult about that. If you that means you're proactive in doing something. While at the same time, in Scotland we've already got 50% of renewable electricity and CO2 and renewable electricity is done through wind, tide, whatever else it is done, hydro probably. So we're getting to that stage, but what is it? Is the Green Party going to disappear after that? Or are they just going to become a communist party? Let's go back to this.
Aiming for 1.5 degrees. The Green Party wants to replace fracking, coal power stations, and subsidies to fossil fuels and
So the Green Party wants to replace fracking. So fracking is the extraction of petrol or unrefined gas and electricity. So obviously this produces CO2, but there's other things that are produced like plastics. And it's how to deal with the plastics. As I've already said, you can reheat the plastics and it turns back into fuel, which can then distilled fuel as well, which can then be turned back into plastics again if required. So, but it's now been put in landfills because the ability to heat the plastic and turn it back into fuel is probably not there as of yet. But reusables is something that has to be perfected, and we have to move away from landfill sites. It has to be the plastics have been or the oil that's been extracted can be, and it has already been distilled, can then be used and refracted through the process to actually get the underlying plastics out, or the underlying oil out, which can then be used in plastic. Again, that's just one example. But so we're still going to require drilling for North Sea oil. It's the way that it's used, so burning it is causing the CO2s. So using it in cars is causing the CO2s. So there are other things that are going to require petrol. Coal power stations less so, but it does give consistency of electricity where sometimes renewables don't do. There is a lack of consistency, so there has to be some sort of electricity diversity, and that is slightly harder. But yeah, I mean, to the greater extent, you could do away with them. It's whether how much wind and tide and hydro you're going to be able to create. Subsidies to fossil fuels and nuclear. Fossil fuels, okay, well, I mean, we should be reducing these anyway. And I'm sure we could all blast our buildings. Can you imagine how beautiful the place would look apart from the postmodernist crap that they put up, with all the buildings blasted after there is no more diesel or fuel cars, which make the houses all black. So there is things here from that point of view. So these are pretty green things that everybody across the political spectrum could jump on.
With subsidies for renewable energy.
Right, so but there is being described as sometimes a lack of consistency in renewable energy as well. So there would have to be some backup or some way of actually having consistent electricity, and I'm not an expert in electricity and the generation of electricity, so that would definitely go to speak to people who have got expertise in renewable energy.
They also want to create a new Clean Air Act, expanding and funding a mandatory clean air zone network.
As you can see, a lot of clean air up here.
The Greens want to hold a referendum on the detail of the final deal which is negotiated with the...
Yeah, you didn't get that, did you? Again, the Greens, like the SNP, Labour, Lib Lab, Con Party, are all just corporatist globalists, so they didn't get what they wanted, so let's vote again until we do.
This vote will also have the option to reject the deal and to remain in the EU.
Yeah, he didn't win that either, so we're out of the EU.
They also want to continue with the freedom of movement for EU citizens.
So open borders, so de facto, so they're basically following the same open door, open immigration policy, being tied to an undemocratic European Union, as we saw from Renew, as we've seen from Change UK. All of these parties are de facto the same. There isn't a political difference here. They're all following the globalist agenda, which weekend that Bernie's president of the United States says, oh, it's better with an autocracy, let's just scrap. And that's probably why the Democrats are attacking United States, the United States Constitution, and trying to take the guns away, and doing things like that, gun generals in, following Marxist critical race theory, because they're actually moving towards this. All of these globalist shells are all moving towards this.
Citizens, as well as staying in the single market.
All right, I see. So they want to stay in the single market. So they're basically Eurofanatics, which we already knew. Open borders, Eurofanatics.
The Green Party want to roll back privatisation of the NHS.
Right, so I'm not bothered about whether it's the public sector or the private sector that saves me, as long as everybody is free in Scotland for everybody at the point of use or point of need. That's the only thing that matters. But whether it's the private sector, the public sector, if the private sector can do better in certain things, then I've not got an ideological preference for that. But obviously, again, because the Greens are far left, then they've obviously got an ideological preference, because they are the loony left.
To ensure that health and dental services are always publicly provided and funded. They want to bring mental health care in line with physical health care, as well as introducing mental health awareness training within...
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Let's hear that again. They want to bring mental health in line with physical health. I agree with that.
Yeah, as well as introducing mental health awareness training within the private sector.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I don't disagree with that.
They also want to invest in social care for the elderly and those who need it.
Okay, but I would need to see the flesh and the bones there. They also want to invest in social care for the elderly and those who need it. Okay.
The Greens want to bring energy, water, railways, buses, and the Royal Mail back into public.
So they're basically big states, the big status. So I wouldn't let these clowns take my dog for a walk, never mind run the country. So they want to run energy, water, rail, buses and Royal Mail. I've got no desire for the state to repurchase all of these utilities and waste my money on them governing these utilities. In the private sector, I've not had any complaints. So if they're wanting to use that money, I prefer it spent on the development of small and medium-sized businesses rather than repurchasing all these businesses that will cost billions of pounds for no particular reason. So I think that's just a vanity project because they're all basically far-left neo-communists.
Greens want to properly fund schools.
Right, so what does that mean? Is that like education? That's got absolutely no point of reference, is it? Why are you guys all disappeared? What is going on? Is MD there? Talk to me. You guys there? You watching me? 4 of 4 watching. Jeez, popular today. Oh. I'm actually getting monetized. That's fantastic. So let's go back here.
So that real-term spending per pupil increases and is protected. They also want to scrap tuition fees for university, as well as restoring the education maintenance allowance. In addition to this, they want...
Sorry, I missed all that.
Real-term spending per pupil increases and is...
So I want to identify children with specific learning difficulties. Is this working okay? What we got in here? I want to identify children with specific learning difficulties. I want to do something that's...
In addition to this, they will...
Sorry, I missed all that. I would like to get people with specific learning difficulties and identify them. That's going to increasing spending doesn't necessarily help the children. By actually identifying some children have multiple specific learning difficulties, that will actually make an actual difference to the education, not just spending money randomly. And that unfortunately is just what the left do. The left don't say, oh, we're going to spend money on X. They just say, oh, we're going to spend money. And as if that throwing money at it cures the problem. And unfortunately the state are the ones that are dictating what the education is, and in Scotland is falling badly because of Nicola Sturgeon.
Protected. They also want to scrap tuition fees for university.
So more spending, so that we're now, not only we're going to buy buses and water and electricity, but we're also going to pay for all the kids' education that they are going to use in the future. So you pay for if I go back and do postgraduate, or not postgraduate but professional qualifications, you pay for that? Why is only university students are going to get it paid for? If I do retraining, can you pay for that? Where does it stop?
As well as restoring the education maintenance allowance.
Right, so just more spend, not about how to create wealth. So not only are they going to affect business and big business and the highest earners, and they will move out of the UK, which will reduce tax base, they're also going mad on, oh yeah, we'll spend it on this, spend it on that, spend it on the next thing. Anti-business, pro-big spending, pro-big government and authoritarian to boot.
In addition to this, they want to start free, universal, early education.
All right, free. It's not free. Nothing. That's not free. That's you taking the taxpayers' money and spending it willy-nilly as you like. It's not free. I wish you need to start calling people out when they say it's free. No, what you want to do is you've decided that free, universal early education and childcare for all children is what you think is right. But some parents might not require that. But you're going to dictate to them that the state has got to actually provide these facilities. So it's all big government. This is a massive socialist overspend, penalising business, and will reduce tax revenues and increase spending massively, where these clowns will try and then dictate through the mass reach of the state that they want to impose. I mean, it's bonkers.
Childcare for all children with formal education starting at age 7.
So 4-day weeks and children now starting at 7. Now I've heard interesting things about children starting later in 7, but then I guess that flips back to you're going to require free childcare, which would cost billions of pounds, not to mention the universal basic income, billions of pounds. I mean, it's just spend. It's like a lunatic going with a credit card and just buying absolutely everything, not costing it. It's absolutely bonkers. Spend, and none of this is generating. In fact, they're actually going to penalise the people that are generating money to pay for all of this, and they're also going to spend on just increasing the state willy-nilly. I mean, why would you want to re-nationalise the railway? I can think of tons and tons of other things, like money for stage 1, stage 2 financing for small businesses, which will then in turn increase the tax revenue, which might pay for some of this complete overreach by the state. I mean, this is bonkers politics.
The Greens want to reinstate housing benefits for under 21s.
Oh, right, we're going to spend more money. Free education, free reinstate, free housing benefits, free this, free child health care, free. And where's all this money come from? It's coming from the people who have now just left because you've increased the rates of corporation tax, and also on the top 1%ers who have now just left and going to live in Monaco. So where is it coming from now? Oh, it's coming from the middle class and the working class, is it? Or maybe slightly higher earners who are left. Right. So maybe they're not going to want to pay huge taxes, which would have to be raised, or are you going to increase debt for future generations, which were already massively indebted because obviously we've been locked in a house for the last 16 months over a virus that's 99.9% survivable.
They also want to scrap age-related wage bans, which are...
age-related wage bans. Right. Okay.
allow younger people to be paid less than older people.
All right, remember the less younger people have not got the experience of what? That's a definite communist thing. We want everybody to be treated the same, but that person who's older may have much more experience, 30 years experience, than the young person. Oh no, we want the person with many years experience to be paid exactly the same. Why are you interfering again in business? This is just, I want to stick my nose into other people's businesses. Right, the best person to run a business is the actual business owner, not the state. The state shouldn't be even having this overreach into business.
They commit to providing more funding for sexual health awareness as well.
Okay, I don't disagree with that. More sexual health awareness. I actually think there needs to be sex therapists and sexual surrogates involved as well in the NHS. So the people that have got practical problems like premature ejaculation and other problems that require hands-on issues. Maybe there's women that can't orgasm and things like that as well. So there's certain things that may require an actual technical thing that might be worthwhile actually having it through the state. As well as removing VAT from sanitary products. All right, so tampons, because it's the women. The women need free, cheaper tampons.
As well as removing VAT from sanitary products. They will also introduce political education in schools.
Political education in schools. Now, that doesn't sound like indoctrination, is it? That would have to be highly monitored. A bunch of lefties want to indoctrinate your kids like critical race theory, all right, into the Marxist way of thinking. Yeah, I wouldn't let these characters. In fact, I actually think the state should be broken up into academies and various things that the state has less power to doing blanket things on the pupils.
And lowering the voting age.
But you've also got to remember the teacher training's where it comes in at as well, so that's something that has to be watched as well.
The Green Party wants to introduce rent controls to limit the cost of housing.
So rent controls don't work, so they've been tried before. They've been tried before and they don't appear to work. And it's not going to work again. I mean, honestly, it's like the village idiots came together and came up with policy.
They also want to start a major program to build affordable zero-carbon homes.
Zero-carbon homes, all right, I see. Zero-carbon homes. And the state's going to be building these monstrosities. We've already seen the eyesores that the state and the left have actually put up in housing, including 100,000 socially rented homes each year.
Including 100,000 social rented homes each year.
Yeah, the state building homes has never been a good thing.
By 2022. They want to significantly improve housing choice for deaf, disabled and older people by
requiring councils to appropriately plan for their housing needs. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Requiring all councils to appropriately plan for their housing
I don't think the state should be building houses, to be brutally honest.
Needs. The Green Party will cancel the Trident programme.
Right, so then we've got a deficit if we're attacked by a nuclear power or threatened by nuclear power. The Greens, what were the Greens going to do? Send them some flowers?
Which they say will save at least £110 billion.
Right, okay, that's great. And then we're invaded by a nuclear power, and what happens?
They also want to start humane integration and asylum system.
Basically, de facto open borders.
As well as increasing the overseas aid budget.
Right, so spend more money, spend more taxpayers' money, spend, and no accountability for where this money's coming from.
From 0.7% of GDP.
From 0.7% to
1%. They would also introduce ethical foreign policy, which builds capacity for conflict resolution. The Greens would implement a UK-wide strategy to tackle gender-based violence.
So are they going to ban Islam then? What are they going to do about Islam that promotes violence?
Including domestic violence, rape, sexual abuse.
So Islam promotes rape and sexual abuse. So are we talking about Islam here?
Abuse, FGM.
Right, okay, so we're talking about Islam, female genital mutilation and trafficking.
The Green Party want to introduce a new elected second chamber.
Yeah, and I think we should have a second chamber in Scotland as well. I think we Nippies got away with too much as well.
Chamber to replace the House of Lords. They also want to give power to local communities by allowing 40% of the local electorate to secure a referendum on local government decisions.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think there should be more direct democracy, to be brutally honest.
Or to recall their MP. In addition, they want to end the sale of personal data such as health and tax records
Yeah.
for commercial or other ends.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The Greens plan to make public transport fully accessible and step-free, as well as phasing in free local public transport.
It's not free. Somebody's paying for it. It's not free. That means the taxpayer's paying for it again. The amount of money that you've just spent and the amount of money that you're going to raise is going to be two different things. This is completely bonkers.
Students, young people
Alright, so certain groups are going to be privileged again, right, okay.
with disabilities and older people.
So, but other people might be affected, but it doesn't matter if they fall out with these groups.
In addition, they want to invest in regional rail links.
Well, the thing we've got to keep our eye on is the Hyperloop, and whether or not we're all going to be using the Hyperloop soon enough. And that's going to be the great leap forward from Richard Branson and Tusk, whatever his name is.
And the electrification of existing rail lines, instead of spending money on HS2 and the national major road.
This HS2 might be a complete waste of time in the fact that we might be going for the Hyperloop
program. If you want to compare this manifesto to the other major parties, find the links to the videos we made about all the other manifestos in the comments below, or by going to tldrnews.co.
Yeah, thank you, TLDR News. That was great. Thank you very much. You guys awful quiet just now. What's happening? I don't understand where you guys are. Let's have a look at this. So, Scottish Green Party. So basically, the Green Party are the tranny party, and they keep waffling on about trans and LGBT rights, and there's probably a disproportionate number of gay people in the Scottish Parliament now.
To ask the First Minister what the Scottish Government is doing to improve trans and LGBTQ plus healthcare.
So I don't know what trans and look at Humza Useless. He's absolutely livid being a Muslim. He's like that. Healthcare for the homosexuals. Wee nippies like that. Yeah, I want healthcare for myself.
First Minister,
I've already only in my manifesto outlined outlined healthcare for women. Screw the men. Yeah, and homes are useless like that. Screw the LGBT. I'm a Muslim.
We're committed to advancing equality for LGBTI.
But not for white men, eh, nippy?
People, everyone should be able to access the health care they need when they need it as part of that overall commitment to equality.
Equality as long as you're not a white man.
As part of the remobilisation of the NHS, we are considering the impact of the pandemic on sexual health services and how we improve these further, and that includes, for example, widening access to PrEP. We are also working with NHS Scotland to improve gender identity services, including reducing waiting times, which I think everybody recognises are far too long, and that causes additional trauma and anxiety. And we will shortly be writing to the National Gender Identity Clinical Network for Scotland to ask them to review and update the gender reassignment protocol. Julian Mackay.
I thank the First Minister for that answer. I'd like to take
the tranny party.
Opportunity to wish everyone a happy Pride, but we should always remember that Pride started as a protest. We've witnessed attacks on organisations such as Stonewall in recent weeks, with some particularly wild and untrue allegations. It shows just how far we have to go to make Scotland a truly equal society.
They don't define equality, but equality is very much a communist terminology. I prefer a free society, not an equal society, because equal subjective. Are you going to give me half your money to make it equal? In what way are you going to make it equal? Equal is just a phrase by the left, which means anything they want it to mean. And it can also mean equal to discriminate. So you can actively discriminate, as we're going to see tomorrow with Peter the Plonker Smith.
Attacks like these cause great emotional pain and have to stop.
I don't know what attack she's talking about. No point of context there.
Trans people are our friends, colleagues and family, and they deserve to be able to express their identity in peace.
Yeah, but I also, as a super straight lesbian trans person, have to have my identity protected, not have people deceive me by impersonating somebody else, and sex through deception, which would be rape. As far as I'm concerned. So I'm with my lesbian sisters, and who don't like people who start off life with a penis.
Will the First Minister stand with me to support trans people and agree that the current situation many trans people face when trying to access gender identity services is unacceptable, including typical waiting times of years for a first appointment? And will she give a clear commitment today that the Scottish Government will take the steps needed, including through providing funding and redesigning these services, to make a person-centred, multidisciplinary approach going...
Now, don't forget, there was a big... I don't know what the big debate internally was within the SNP, but Andy Whiteman obviously got ostracised for the tranny. Don't forget, we'll get into Rees-Mogg in a minute, but Rees-Mogg, I think, is gay or bisexual or whatever. But it seems like the identity, especially in the Scottish Greens, based around sexuality. It's not based around growing the economy or doing anything sensible like that. No. It's about spending lots of money on services that you might not use or utilise. They want to tax you to the hilt and spend it on whatever they choose. Nationalisation of various services that is not going to positively affect your life if they spend billions of pounds of your money renationalising these.
Forward for trans people in Scotland.
First Minister. Yes, in general terms, I do agree with all of that, and I absolutely stand here full square behind trans people.
Because I'm part of the LGBT community.
The discrimination and stigma and prejudice they face, and in the ongoing battle for equality, for which they...
So she doesn't mean equality in what you would actually know equality to be. It's not like we have one set of principles for one. What she means is equity, where I've got a set of it's rules for me and not for thee, depending on what group you're in. And obviously wee Nippy is in charge as a part of the LGBT community anyway. So we've got a whole bunch of homosexuals that are not producing any children and adversely affecting the Scottish birth rate, and the only thing that they know how to do is ethnic cleansing through the use of mass immigration.
They have as much an entitlement as...
Which is what me Nippy said yesterday from the other thing.
Anyone else in our society. There are many things we've got to do, not least reducing waiting times for gender identity services, and I've already commented on that. But I think all of us have to also recognise that progress, unfortunately, in our society is rarely all one way. We always have to protect and continue to win and re-win the progress we made. I also would wish people a happy Pride Month. It did start as a process.
Pride Queen here. Slap my bitch up.
The organisation Stonewall, of course, was right at the heart of that, and to this day does very good work for people who rely on its services and its support. We don't have to look too far today, whether it's on LGBTI issues or around sexism and misogyny or racism.
Oh, sexism, misogyny, not misandry. No problems with misandry. It's not like if I slap my bitch up, then it's a problem as a lesbian trans person. But if she slaps her bitch up, then she can just get the court to do a super injunction, and nobody's allowed to talk about it. All right, but misandry is not a problem. Misandry is not an issue. Oh, it's only misogyny, and not the misogyny of Islam, where they actually want you to, or it says in the actual tenets of the religion, to slap your bitch up. Oh, no, it's only misogyny. White men, that's the problem. Not the wee Nippy's not an intersectional feminist lesbian.
Racism, to see that there are many forces wanting to take his racism, to see that there are
racism.
services and its support. We don't actually...
Buzzword from the intersectional dictionary. Here we go. Go on, Nippy.
Look too far today, whether it's on LGBTI issues or around sexism and misogyny or racism.
Well, I think she must be covering Islam there. Sexism, misogyny and racism. Not, well, I mean, it is pretty racist down that neck of the woods anyway, but I mean, it's not, well, unless you talk about the enslavement and sexual enslavement of people by their profit. I'm not quite sure if that's what she's meaning by that. But I think she's talking about Hamza Useless there.
Them to see that there are many forces wanting to take us backwards, and I think all of us have a duty to stand up.
Yeah, Islam, your health secretary, the guy that's head of Labour.
For equality, however difficult that may be on occasion, to make sure that our progress as a country continues to be in the forward.
Yeah, we're not going to have a country if there's no people breeding, is there, Nippy? There's nobody breeding, Nippy. There's not a country. Oh, you're going to import the country. Right, I see the open door immigration. You're going to import a new country. Oh, did you not like... I guess because the old one was all full of these racist and sexist and misogynistic men that you don't like as a intersectional lesbian Marxist feminist. Postmodernist Marxist feminist, should I say. That you don't like these guys, do you? It's better with your wee French girlfriend, isn't it, Nippy?
Direction, and that Scotland is a place where everybody feels valued.
Oh, I don't feel valued, Nippy. It seems to like you've got a major chip in your shoulder for the white men. Oh, where you can actually set them up with false sexual allegations, even if it's your mentor. Ha ha! Get to it, Nippy.
And respected and able to be who they are. That's the country I want to...
Well, why don't you be who you are then? We all know you're a lesbian, allegedly. So, here we go. Where is everybody? Mainly peaceful burnouts. So, what have we got? I don't know if everybody's watching her. Oh, here we go. Eight thumbs ups. Is anybody there? I don't know. What's going on? I'm sure they're actually hampering this. Stay alive, content, types of video. Friendly teens, I don't know. Maybe they have actually... Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by the rules. Looks good here, bud. That's great, thanks you. Best Democrats put forward. So, let's see horsey face. Oh, here's she is here.
I offer my congratulations and those of the Scottish Green Party to
Wait, what language is she speaking? What is that?
Nicola Sturgeon on her re-election as First Minister.
Yeah.
It is a remarkable achievement.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're corrupting the judiciary, then it is pretty remarkable, isn't it?
14 years after the SNP entered government.
Yeah, and she's still... yeah.
And more than 6 years after Nicola Sturgeon herself first became First Minister.
Oh, great. Oh, how long?
First Minister.
How long, Horsey?
Herself first became First Minister, and more than 6 years after Nicola Sturgeon herself first became First Minister.
But it's pretty embarrassing with the perjury allegations against her husband and the misleading of Parliament again, and also the corruption of the judiciary. Let's look at this. This is quite good as well. Mr. McCaskill. Mr. McCaskill is actually very intelligent. Let's look at this. YouTube, Albert. Although I don't agree with a lot of what has been said,
earlier this week I was raising an adjournment debate and
I'm not obviously in the same part of the political compass as Kenny McCaskill, but I certainly respect him as a politician.
Westminster. I was doing so because the issue of the Lord Advocate is fundamental to democracy in Scotland.
But it's been compromised by wee Nippy, no wonder you left.
The present moment. Change is required in Westminster because the position of Lord Advocate is enshrined in the 1998 Scotland Act establishing the Scottish Parliament.
But you also need to reintroduce through a new act parliamentary privilege as well. That has to be in the new changes as well, Kenny.
But change also has to be initiated, as the Tory government was happy to say, by the Scottish Government in Holyrood. So far there hasn't been enough action on that. This weekend's papers have shown that the issue of the Lord Advocate is continuing to be a concern in Scotland, and it's for that reason that I raised the debate. I do believe that independence is necessary for Scotland. It's necessary to allow us to be the country we know we can be.
I wouldn't want me nippy, the mad feminist thing. Open borders, we want to get governed by 20 unelected commissioners. We're going to bring in UN compact, UN legislation into Scottish, deregulating the Scottish law. Nobody's ever voted for it. I'm not sure if I voted for Alex and Nicola Sturgeon to start with, but seeing the type of Scotland she wants, it's not really something I would like to do, especially with the dough balls and the Greens.
Equally, there are issues happening in Scotland that we cannot simply tolerate and that can be changed even before independence. Separating the position, making sure there's a separation of powers between...
But there also needs to be an upper chamber, Kenny. There also has to be an upper chamber. Hopefully redesigning the horrible building down at Holyrood. I mean, it's one horrible building. There's enough, if we ever have a nuclear war and the pandas need fed, there's enough bamboo in that building to feed them for years.
The government and the prosecution is something fundamental in any democracy. It's essential that we do that in Scotland. I hope you enjoy the speech. I hope you learn something for it.
Well, I didn't learn anything from it, but it's certainly the right thing to do. We'll see we Lesbo, cherry by cherry by nature.
Because together we've got to make Scotland the land we know it can be, both now and the independent country that we're fighting for. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
So Ken McCaskill just keeps hitting out the park on his speeches, I have to say.
I believe that many of the ills that afflict Scotland can be laid at the door of this Tory government. One that hasn't been elected in Scotland, not for the 55 years of hurt experienced by English football fans, but for 65 years, longer than I've lived. Independence is therefore essential. But not all ills rest there. And some, along with our demons, such as alcohol and violence, can be and must be addressed by ourselves. The role of the Lord Advocate is one. The Lord Advocate and law officers, along with ministers, are part of Scotland's offices of state, enshrined in the Scotland Act 1998 that established the Scottish Parliament. It's why legislative change here is required. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to raise this, welcome the willingness of the UK Government to assist, and hope that urgency will now be shown by the Scottish Government. Scottish democracy badly requires it. Before the post of Secretary of State for Scotland was created, the Lord Advocate was the power in the land, and some were despotic indeed. The transportation of Thomas Muir and the hanging and beheading of Baird Harding Wilson, the Scottish radicals and 1820 martyrs, are crimes that lie with them. Thankfully, the post evolved and became a purely legal role, but an anachronism was built in. So the post holder is both principal legal advisor to the Scottish Government, yet also head of the prosecution service, or the Crown Office as it's known. Now that's something neither replicated elsewhere in the United Kingdom, nor indeed in any modern democracy. Conflict of interest precluding it. In England and Wales, an Attorney General advises government from within. Meanwhile, a head of prosecution service is both separate and independent from government. But not so in Scotland, and therein lies the problem. To be fair, apart from those despotic years, post holders, irrespective of political hue and whether pre or post-devolution, have acted with the impartiality expected. Modest steps were taken to mitigate the conflict of powers. Under Alex Salmond's administration, a convention was in.
Yeah, and it worked quite well, but Wee Nippy's more despotic, isn't she? She's far more authoritarian. So it just shows you how an authoritarian can just move in. Now, don't forget, she's a globalist shill as well. So, like Dopey Joe's in America just now saying, oh, we don't need democracy, I'm in charge. Weekend at Bernie's. Zuckerberg paid £340 million, but we won't talk about that. No cheating in the postal votes, nothing like that. I am very popular. And then we've got Wee Nippy abusing our position of power in Scotland as well.
Vote that the Lord Advocate only
and not being able to been held to account by a second chamber or a judiciary which is now embedded in the actual state. So you haven't now got an objective, and you certainly don't have an objective press. The press are attacking me for asking them questions, hold them to account. Don't forget that. We'll come on to that tomorrow.
Period cabinet when legal advice was to be given and didn't participate in wider political debate, but the anachronism still lingered. Under Nicola Sturgeon's administration, it has been brutally exposed by both Scottish Government and Crown Office actions, and with the Lord Advocate straddling both. Change.
Don't forget, remember, Wolf's gone. Wolf's gone. I told you Wolf was going to have to go. We went up and said that the Lord Advocate's going to have to go, and he's gone. So I mean, don't think for a minute that we are not got political power just now. The reason that I'm being attacked is because they know that what I'm saying is correct. It's not. This isn't just happening by chance. You can look back on the Guerilla TV, you can see us going into the Lord Advocate's office, asking for him and asking if he's going to resign. Disgraceful.
Needed and fast. Firstly, there's been an admission by the outgoing Lord Advocate of malicious prosecutions involving the administrators in the Rangers FC liquidation. That's unprecedented in Scotland, not just in recent years, but since those days of the early 19th century. Even south of the border, there have been none since 1999, and high-profile cases before, such as Winston Silcott and Daniel Morgan, were rare. It has caused alarm with the public and been of huge reputational damage in an organisation where impartiality is imperative. It has also caused consternation and anger within police and prosecution services, where the overwhelming majority of staff act without bias and free of any favour or prejudice. The reputation of the many has been traduced by a few. It was the former Lord Advocate's decision, and seeking to cast blame on his predecessor was shameful and inadequate. An inquiry, perhaps even by a non-Scottish judicial figure, has been promised.
Yeah, and also I mentioned about an inquiry. I think Nicola Sturgeon might end up in jail. I'm not being hyperbolic. I think she might go to jail. I think that depending on the changes of what might happen in the future, that she could conceivably go to jail. I think she could be seen as actually having committed criminal offences while in office.
Additionally, there's the financial costs. Quantum of damages is for the court, but suggestions of the final bill could reach 60 or 80 million pounds. This in an organisation with an annual budget of 300 million struggling to meet existing commitments. The price will be paid by Scottish taxpayers and the loss felt by hard-pressed Scottish public services. Secondly, and just as alarmingly, has been the role of the Lord Advocate and a coterie around him within the Crown Office in the Alex Salmond case and the fallout from it. Another instance of the public having to pay the price of government incompetence, with the
Nicola Sturgeon's incompetence.
Expenses billed in the civil case amounting to £500,000. But where again, impartiality as well as competence was raised. In the civil case, the presiding judge described the Scottish Government's actions as unlawful, unfair, and tainted by apparent bias.
Now, that's the judge. He's talking about the judge that was in charge of that trial. Another judge has then looked at that trial that was overviewing the full legal ramifications, and has said to Alex Salmond that he can actually take the over and above what's already happened, take the government to court, which I think he's going to do, and sue the government for the unlawful and unfair bias, which the other judge, not the judge here, but the other judge said that there was flaws in the process, and if Alex Salmond actually gets another trial, he can actually now take the government, because of the unlawful and unfair actions of Nicola Sturgeon, to court again. Which is quite incredible.
During proceedings, senior external counsel Roddy Dunlop QC,
who's the only person here that came out of this without any sort of kudos,
Dean of the Faculty of Advocates, expressed horror at the situation he and his colleague had been put in by their client, where they could no longer rest on pleadings they knew to be untrue. The client was the government, and their senior legal advisor was the Lord Advocate. A criminal case followed the failed civil case and was prosecuted by the Crown Office, where the same Lord Advocate remained in office. Despite growing pressures on police and prosecution, nothing has been spared, nothing has been too trivial, but the targets always seem selective. The Alex Salmond case saw resources deployed normally reserved for a serious organised crime figure or a serial killer. Yet for charges
not somebody that was giving somebody a sleepy cuddle,
that other than for who was being prosecuted would either never have seen the light of day or only appeared in the lowest courts.
Yeah, I remember I told you, probably bar two of the accusations were serious. I mean, the whole thing looked like it was gerrymandered by Nicola Sturgeon. So what she was trying to do was a 1-2 punch. So won the civil case against him, make him look away, boom, and then from the criminal case. Didn't see that one coming, did you? And that was to destroy his reputation, which is a lot better than Nicola Sturgeon's is now. So... yeah, I mean, if Nicola Sturgeon has set him up for these, and this should be reinvestigated, polygraph tests used, the full shebang, then Nicola Sturgeon, for orchestrating the set-up by false sexual allegations, should go to jail.
Not the High Court. I say that as someone who was Justice Secretary for 7.5 years, but was also a defence agent for 20. As it was, Mr. Salmond was acquitted on all charges and by a majority female jury. Now, it's standard practice in cases involving politicians that the Lord Advocate recuses himself from involvement in the consideration or prosecution of a case. And that was done here, with no direct involvement in the prosecution. But at the same time, he had been and was sitting on Scottish Government committees dealing with the civil case, and where referral or prosecution was being actively sought and advised by the administration. Let's recall, a prosecution was sought by the Scottish Government as the actions of the Director of HR in contacting the police confirm. Many complainers, indeed most, were and remain at the heart of government or are officials or otherwise closely linked with the governing party.
And Nicola Sturgeon.
Prosecution was encouraged and pressed for by the Chief Executive of the governing party and who's the First Minister's husband.
Who may be up in perjury charges with Jackie Bailey promoting that.
Chinese walls and recusal are entirely inadequate.
Kenny McCaskill's completely correct.
In one role, the Lord Advocate...
But he doesn't mention Scottish parliamentary privilege, which should also be used as well. We should also be... It's the same in the Scottish Parliament as in Westminster.
...was supporting a government pursuing prosecution In another, he was denying it was anything to do with him.
Yeah, I think he might go to jail.
A separation of powers.
Or he might not, because of the compromising of the judicial system.
This certainly wasn't. When James Wolfe appeared before the Holyrood Committee, considering the Salmon prosecution, he was frankly evasive and obfuscating, mirroring the actions of the Crown and Government in a lack of openness and transparency.
Well, let's do this again. 50. Never gets old.
I don't know where the leak came from, not to the best of my recollection. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know whether that was something we considered. I do not know. I'm not aware that I am making assumptions here, and I do not recall that. I don't remember. I'm not aware of them. My recollection of the conversation with Jeff is not as vivid as I wish it was. I can't recall his memory. He told me the name. I can't remember the exact phraseology of it. I can't recall, and I would need to check his. I can't remember if that's a technical term. And I don't have a recollection. I don't recall. If memory serves me correctly, I may be getting the 1 and 2 round the wrong way here. I can't tell you. I don't know of anything that was that. I can't recall all the ins and outs of this. We'd have to check the precise dates here. I'd have to check the detail. I cannot sit here and say definitively that none of that happened. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you exactly on what day. I didn't know. I am not in possession at this point.
I'm not in possession of my faculties. I'm not in possession of my faculties.
At this point, and all the information, I don't have the dates in hand.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I can't give you specific answers to that right now. I don't know. Can't immediately recall.
Yeah, it seems all totally honest and above board, and it's good the fact she's being honest and transparent in governance.
Exactly what it said. I don't know. I didn't know for certain. I didn't know it was certain. I didn't remember this meeting.
Hey, setting up Alex Salmon.
And I asked myself, how could I have, forgotten that? I don't know. So I don't know.
Yeah, don't know.
I don't recall.
I don't recall. No idea. What's happening? Where am I? I don't know. Where am I? Who am I? I don't know. Who's that? Don't know.
Trying to think.
Do you remember setting up Alex Salmon? No, I don't remember.
When was it I found out about this?
No, before it started.
I can't remember. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember.
What I don't recall is...
what my name is. Where is it? Just listening to me. Are you alright? Thanks, Donna. Thanks. Right, let's go back to Kenny.
There was neither contrition nor candour. Open government, this certainly was not. And the fallout and the failures continued to reverberate. Following on from Alex Salmon's case has been that of Craig Murray, a writer and a former diplomat.
Which again we've covered on the Guerilla TV channel too. We've done a couple of things. I should have actually done another one, I'm sorry, to Craig as well, when he was going through this as well. He's an older man. I should have done a second one when Nicola Sturgeon actually persecuted him and put him in jail.
His conviction's under appeal at the Supreme Court.
I'm not surprised. And if anybody's going to go, wait now, who's this? Let me see if I can get that something. No. What's this woman's name? So this woman wrote an article. What did she say in the Scotsman? His son too has been targeted. Well, Danny Garivelli is also a journalist, I think that's what she is as well. So obviously Guerilla TV channel is a company just like the Scotsman or ITV, and But apparently, rather than going after and holding the politicians to account, they're now holding other journalists who are out with their wee oligopoly of sphere of influence. So the oligopoly of journalists are protecting the oligopoly of the five parties, and they're working in synergy. It's not what should be working in the democracy is the media or the journalists are holding the actual, and I'm going to cover this tomorrow, the politicians to account. The journalists are holding anybody else that's actually asking journalistic questions to account. So I am obviously, I've stood for the Brexit Party, and I'm obviously political as well, but that wasn't the role I was involved myself in. This was for the Guerilla TV channel. And so his son too has been targeted. So I'm asking questions. So when I ask questions through the Guerilla TV channel as part of my journalism, I'm targeting. When they do it, I don't know what they call it, they do whatever. So whenever I'm getting spoken to by one of their collective, their part of the oligopoly journalists who protect the political class, then I can just say they're harassing me, they're targeting me. As we can see here, he has been harassed. So asking questions now, remember this. So them asking questions isn't harassment, but me asking politicians questions. Obviously, as a politician myself, I didn't know one politician asking the actual terminology for one politician asking another politician questions was harassment, or me as a journalist asking a politician question was harassment. But obvious for this brainlet Danny Garavelli, and I'll come back to Danny Garavelli's point as well, or significance here. Danny, so she said, was made a series of remarks about Pakistani child rape laws. Yeah, that's right. I don't know if she's just not done any journalism to actually see if there's any validity to it. And if anybody wants to check, all they need to do, there's horsey face. All they need to do is go to the top one here. Oh no, it's not. Where is it going? The top one, wherever it is, when these come off, with Mr. Sarwar's picture on it. Where is it? There it is there. This one here. So, and I've covered all the places or the parts that are relative to the questions I actually asked. So don't forget, so me as a politician asking another politician is called harassment. Me as a journalist asking a politician is harassment, unless it's them that's doing it, which they're part of the protective ball for the five globalist, corporatist, globalist shill parties that they protect. So it's not journalists holding the politicians to account, it's the journalists working in synergy and preventing real journalists asking proper questions. And the allegations, rape laws and alleged, it's not alleged, I think these were actually, they weren't proven in court, which makes it even worse, and they were covered up by Wee Nippy and Nicola Sturgeon, alleged abuse of children by asylum seekers in Glasgow, which was covered in both the Express and the Sun. The allegations of child abuse echo those made against the Roma in Govan Hill. These are two separate things. I don't know anything about the Roma in Govan Hill. I haven't got a clue. I've heard, obviously, through the grapevine, but I don't think that's been covered in the national press, which is where I got my information from. So I think she's deliberately trying to conflate as if this is all one big conspiracy theory. As I said, I give reference to the questions I asked in my review of me speaking to Mr. Sarwar. So again, Danny is whatever. the allegations of child abuse echo those made against the Roma in Govan Hills. Not even comparable. Not even comparable. These have been actually been covered up by the state and been acknowledged to covered up by the state through the press. These allegations, and I don't know anything about the Roma abuse of children. These allegations, which have been investigated repeatedly by the police. Well, I think it was the police that probably leaked the fact that these were being covered up. And what she's trying to do is conflate it as if this is a big bogey story. There's no grounds to this. So she's not investigating this as an objective, and this was just before the election, an objective journalist. She's just saying, oh, it's a big conspiracy theory. Oh, this is definitely not happening. There's people going to jail for it. There's people going to jail for it. So Danny's completely wrong, but I'll come back to Danny in a second. These allegations, I'm going to cover this tomorrow as well, which have been investigated repeatedly by the police, are spread via Facebook groups. I'm not on Facebook. I've been kicked off Facebook, so they've not been spread by me on Facebook, and they're not being spread through Facebook. They're in the national press, Danny, which you're actually writing for. If you check back, as I said, I've already highlighted the Express and the Sun articles. So it's not like a conspiracy theory. It's already been covered by your fellow journalist, Danny. And spread by via groups by vlogger Alex Kearney. I don't know Alex Kearney. I've never met him before, and I don't really know what's happening. I've heard it obviously through Alex Kearney if this is actually happening, but I don't know. But there's a difference between what Alex is saying about the Roma, which I don't know. I believe that probably there is some grounds there with Alex as well, but I don't know the extent to the rape of children in care homes by Muslim asylum seekers and the government covering it up, which is in the press, in the Sun and the Express, and has been going on for five or 6 years. And what she's doing, what Danny Garivelli is doing is blowing smoke to actually protect the political class, because they're already on an agenda, and it wouldn't really fit their agenda knowing that children who are meant to be under their protection are being raped by the asylum seekers that they're saying, oh, they're all great, come on in, everybody welcome. That wouldn't really fit their agenda, would it? Muslims raping non-Muslims, as has happened all over the UK and the British establishment because of their open door immigration policy, are doing nothing about, which could be genocide. It could be seen as genocidal, and they could be up on like a Nuremberg trial type thing, are spread via. So it's all a big conspiracy theory, even though it's in the national press. Oh, we'll just say it's a big conspiracy theory to the people who are not actually paying attention, who claim to be terrified as he walked around filming the area. All right. He was terrified. It looked terrified to me. It just looked like he was filming out there. And rather than actually checking if this is true by Danny, she's just trying to blow it all off. But Danny Garivelli was also potentially jigsawing the identities of which what's his face went to jail for. Who was the guy? I'm not spelling it correctly. Went to jail for jigsawing. Who is that? Murray. Mr. Murray. So she was actually, Danny Garivelli was also jigsawing the identity of people who were involved in the Alex Salmond trial, and she was given a pass by wee Nippy. So and I'll come on to more of that tomorrow. In recent weeks, one of the Black Lives Matter murals were in Glasgow. It's 90% white, and why we got racial communism, racist communism in Glasgow. No wonder it was vandalised. Should have been vandalised. Why is there racist communism being spread in Glasgow? And obviously, Danny Garavelli, that Scottish name, let's see, can I get her up? Scottish name, I'm not sure what that is as well. Freelance journalist, all right. Book reviewer, freelance. So, I mean, obviously she's coming and she seems to be really embedded with wee Nippy as well. Not holding Nippy to account as a proper journalist should, but actually covering our tracks for Nippy. So you can start to piece together, like, what's his face? Paul Hutchins, who was the initial person I'll talk about more tomorrow. Then Peter the Plonker Smith. And then Danny Garavelli. They protect the political class. They're not there to investigate or do proper journalism, and they're there to discriminate anybody who is actually holding these people to account. As we've seen, they're becoming increasingly unaccountable. So let's go back to Kenny. Carry on, Kenny.
I refrain from commenting on specifics of the case. Instead, I restrict my remarks to the decision by the Crown to prosecute Mr. Money for jigsaw identification of complainants.
So don't forget, Danny Garavelli also jigsawed and didn't get any prosecution. So one rule for one for another.
In the case. But why was he prosecuted when others...
And he's talking about Danny Garavelli here.
...weren't. In one case, certainly overtly, and in many others...
This was covered in Wings Over Scotland, so if you want to go back and look at it, Wings Over Scotland did some great investigative work and did a great job with that.
Much more flagrantly than by Mr. Money, but no action was taken.
Yeah, because it's one rule for one for another in Scotland now under Nippy.
Moreover, there were publications which in any other case would have constituted a clear contempt of court.
Danny Garavelli.
But that went without censure by the Crown. They included newspaper articles that were as prejudicial as I've ever seen. But they were supporting prosecution. Whereas Mr.
So they were on Nippy's side. Right, I see. So rather than being an objective journalism, if you kiss ass like Peter the Plonker Smith, brown-nosing Sawa, he's a racist, stop that, you big bully. Never met him before in my life. As I said, tomorrow, can't wait for that tomorrow. Peter the Plonker Smith. He's a big bully. That David Ballantyne's terrible. Never met him. He came up and started to interfere in my conversation, my interview. How rude, how unethical. We'll get that tomorrow. I don't want to spoil that tomorrow. That's great, but listen, I'll walk you across the road. That's super. And his eyes were popping out his head. Racism. I never said racist. So if you think about Paul Hutchins and probably know each other, Danny Garavelli or whatever the name is, and Peter the Plonker Smith, all probably know each other and hang about. Let's go for dinner, and we can get to speak to the First Minister if we treat her right. Not to hold them to account, but just to basically brown nose them and hold anybody who is actually holding them to account in contempt. These are not journalists, these are hacks. And also getting away with jigsawing. They're obviously, there's one rule for one for another. I don't know what exactly, or the Scottish Police Force, who are all now in a top-down line from Nippy and obviously not doing their job properly.
Money, though seeking to report factually, wasn't.
Yeah. So if you are against us, we're going to put you in jail. If you're for us, then you can break the law.
It does seem that the Crown has one law for those supporting the government line and another for those who challenge it.
That's just wee Nippy's administration, isn't it? That's just wee Nippy's administration down to a T.
I thank my honourable and learned friend for giving way. And I'd like to mention a case you'll be aware of journalist Mark Hurst, who was arrested and charged with threatening and abusive behaviour. However, when that case went before Sheriff Pasterson, he ruled that there was no case to answer, that Hurst had simply been giving his opinion of the situation within the SNP, and no more than that. There are also cases of police knocking on doors for single tweets. And
in Count Dankula, that's what they've got. And we've now got Humza Useless putting a guy in the court system, putting a guy on house arrest for 6 months because Humza Useless got some edgy tweets. Oh no, they're not even racist. They weren't even racist or threats of violence. Just a bit edgy. 6 months and you've got to stay in your house. Oh, right.
Subjudice and where charges have yet to be brought. All of this is exerting a chilling effect on democracy in Scotland.
Yeah, because we Nippy's also following Joe Biden's, it's better to be an autocrat, or an oligopoly. Twat.
Scotland. And does he share my concern that even in the absence of any evidence of wrongdoing or malfeasance, any continued failure by the Scottish Government to address the separation of powers reinforces talk of deliberate and targeted harassment of individuals critical of the Scottish Government, its policies and its leadership, including its...
We want an equality and inclusion, as long as you don't talk against the government, or then we're going to put you in jail. If you talk against the authoritarian wee nippy legacy, or how bad she's been with schools, hospitals, just banging people up, people have got political disagreement with her. Oh, but we want equality and inclusion. Oh, right, do you, Nippy?
Absolutely. Justice, there's a clear perception of there being far from equanimity or indeed even balance by the Crown. Now, James Wolfe has stepped down as Lord Advocate.
Thanks to yours truly.
Replaced by Dorothy Bain. Miss Bain has an illustrious record of service and
So, as I said, I don't hold people badly to account if they've not done anything. So, Miss Bain, whoever she is, gets a pass until she doesn't.
Wish her well, but the structural flaw remains. Personnel changes, no matter how merited, cannot resolve.
So it's the structure. It's the structure of how the judiciary is within the Scottish governance just now, and the lack of separation between the judiciary and the state.
Of the fundamental.
And also we've got no second chamber to hold the lower chamber to account as well, which is again another flaw in the way that the Scottish Parliament has been designed.
Of a lack of separation of powers. The impartiality of the Crown is an imperative in a democracy. It must be seen to act in the public interest.
And also parliamentary privilege, which is not in the Scottish Parliament.
Not that of the government or its friends or allies. The coterie who surrounded Mr. Wolfe and who were instrumental in driving these policies and actions.
More incompetence. It's almost deliberate incompetence. It's not like, I don't think these people are stupid. It's almost like deliberate, willful incompetence. Going to get a drink, hold on.
Often against the wishes and views of long-serving staff still remain. In particular, the Crown agent, Mr. Harvey, the senior civil servant. Unusually, among senior Crown staff, his career hasn't simply been as a Procurator Fiscal in Scotland, but has included service and secondment to British government departments. The situation is now critical, as a police investigation has opened into the SNP's finances. The party leader is the First Minister. Her husband is Chief Executive.
I like the way he said husband there. I had to watch this twice. I think he's taken the way I say her husband.
Is the First Minister. Her husband is Chief Executive. A situation, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that would be intolerable in any public body or private company, or even in a bowling or social club in any Scottish town. The idea that the Chief Steward could be the spouse of the Treasurer would draw derision and rejection, but not so in Scotland's governing party. Worsening that further, the fact that all three members of the SNP Finance and Audit Committee resigned from their roles.
So remember, I said the other day there are £600,000 missing, so the three people have resigned, had resigned before. that were on the committee, because this £600,000 disappeared, and there could be somebody up on the line. Could be Wee Nippy's husband again. So Wee Nippy's husband could be down for perjury for the Alex Salmond conversations they had in the Scottish Parliament, because you would be, if you're lying to Parliament or being deceptive to Parliament, you could be up in perjury charges, which Jackie Baillie from the Labour Party wants to prosecute or put forward as a prosecution. And now we've got £600,000 missing of funds as well. The walls are coming in. The walls didn't stop because of the election. The walls are still coming in on Nicola Sturgeon.
Who refused information by the Chief Executive. That, Mr Deputy Speaker, has been followed by the resignation of the elected Treasurer, the Honourable Member for Dunfermline, for similar reasons. Given what has happened, can the Scottish public be assured that the investigation will have access to all information, and that any decision to prosecute or not will be made on legal criteria and in the interest of justice? Protocols.
I could see wee Cherry Bonature joining Alex and the guys as well. It's actually, I mean, they're not really, they're two cheeks of the same asshole, as George Galloway would say, but they're not really different on the political compass, and we're not moving out this sort of quasi-authoritarian left-leaning part of the political spectrum, so we're not getting really new ideas coming in. We're getting the same old stuff slightly reheated. It's like yesterday's kebab. And we're just moving. So the Greens are on the left, the Alba's on the left, the Labour Party's on the left, Lib Dems are pretty much on the left as well. Even the Conservatives are on the centre, all authoritarian centre left, the SNP as well as on the left. So we're just bouncing about this authoritarian, moderately authoritarian, well, it depends on which party, left of centre. And the Labour might actually be further right under Sarwar than anything else.
Have failed, been breached, or even abused. Interim steps can be taken to separate the roles. Perhaps there should not just be a recusal, as there no doubt will be by the Lord Advocate, but as with the Rangers FC investigation, the bringing in of an external judicial advisor.
Yeah, there needs to be an external judicial advisor on the whole Alex Salmond fiasco. Not just that you're looking at wee bits of it. There has to be somebody that looks at it in an entirety, and a judge that looks at the whole, an external judge that's out with from the British government, that will look at the entirety of that situation and who the people were, political connections, was this a set-up, polygraph tests if necessary.
Moreover, the Lord Advocate has recused herself from involvement in the Rangers FC civil proceedings. Maybe she could recuse herself from all direct government involvement. An in-house legal department exists. The duty to represent the government in court and pursue constitutional challenges remains, but that can be dealt with by external counsel. Change and a separation of powers there must be. The twin roles of the Lord Advocate in prosecution and in advising government are an historical anachronism, but entirely unsuited to a modern democracy. As a former Justice Secretary and someone who's practiced law in Scotland for over 20 years and cherishes our distinct system, I'm appalled at what has happened. And I know that's echoed in legal circles, by all means.
There's wee Cherry Bonature.
I'm very grateful to the right honourable gentleman for giving way. I'm not going to comment on any of the particular cases he's mentioned, but what I'm going to say to him is he aware that the First Minister of Scotland has recognised that there's a case for reform here?
Yes, because she's already done the damage.
Does he agree with me that all that's really needed is for this House to pass a bill to amend the Scotland Act?
Yeah, I know, and to include parliamentary privilege.
To give the Scottish Parliament the power to make alterations to the role of Lord Advocate.
Yeah, but we also want an upper chamber to hold wee Nippy to account.
And the Scottish Parliament could properly consider I think he's suggesting separating it into roles akin to the Attorney General and the Director of Public Prosecutions in England. But I stress I'm not making any comment on the cases he's mentioned. I'm simply drawing to his attention the fact that the First Minister has recognised the case for reform.
Yeah, oh, great. Oh, great. I think Kenny's going to cover this in a second.
And this might be the best way to do it.
Well, I think recognition is one thing. Progress is quite another. We are now in July. Holyrood is in recess.
Oh yeah, I'm going to put a man in the moon. When exactly?
An election, and we are still to see any action other than rhetoric from the Scottish Government. It's entirely inadequate. But I do accept what the member says, that it should be for the Scottish Parliament to decide what the structure should be. It has to be a structure, I think, that will mirror most democracies south of the border.
I think wee Cherry Bam is one to jump ship. I think she's getting ready. I think there might be a few other people that go jump to the Alba now. Seems to be getting bigger.
Or indeed elsewhere, but it should be for the Scottish Parliament, but they have to show greater willingness. So I call upon the Minister to engage with the Scottish Government as a matter of urgency, so that changes can be made to the 1998 Act. Changes providing for a complete separation of powers between the head of the prosecution service and the senior government legal advisor. Every modern democracy does so, and so must Scotland. The failures have been too many, and the risks are too great. For justice, Mr. Deputy Speaker, has not only to be done, but must be seen to be done. Thank you.
Woo! Very interesting. Ooh. What we got? You're awful quiet tonight. I'm a bit worried. I didn't think this was working. I'm just listening, mate. That's good, Donna. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's hope that. So, what we got? Went to jail, Jigsaw. So we've got Danny. Might go for Danny again. Until she comes back. And let's go back to. I've done that twice. Alba Party. I don't remember. Let's go. That can go as well. So here we go, back to Horseyface.
To be returned with the second highest tally of seats at any election since devolution demonstrates that whatever differences we have...
Hey, quite a lot, you call me.
The First Minister personally retains the confidence of the bulk of the country.
She may be going to jail.
I look across this debating chamber, presiding officer, and what I see is hope.
What I see is a bunch of lefties.
I see Scotland's most diverse parliament.
Oh, here we go, intersectionality coming out here. Not, is this the best parliament? Just everybody looks different. Oh, fantastic. Have we got the best people in? They're going to do the best job. Oh, no, it doesn't matter about that. They're all different. That makes all the difference. Are they going to be good or bad? No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, they look and they're all different. That's what matters, right? I see. I didn't realise that. Obviously, this Canadian woman has come over and educated us all from the extremely going downhill country of and starting to get more totalitarian. A bit like obviously what Weekend at Bernie president is wanting as well, after talking to Winnie the Pooh.
Coming together in this room at this most critical...
Oh, you're going to nationalise everything? Oh, yeah, I know how to run it. I'm really super duper. Just a bunch of communists kidding on the environmentalists. They're like, I think they're like far left socialists. That's probably maybe intersectional Marxists, but and postmodernist Marxists mixed in with the socialism, but obviously big state authoritarian, and we've got Horseyface here going to run the buses and not the private companies. Private companies can't do that, which they've been doing a great job anyway. I don't know why we want the state to run it again. The state usually is incompetent at running things, but they don't want private companies running things.
Critical of times. I see more young people.
Oh, do you? Oh, we'll stay out of the schools.
More women.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, women. Women. And what I think one of the big issues that women should cover just now is getting whistled at. I mean, that's, I think of all the things that could affect the Scottish economy and Scottish society, I think being whistled at is probably up there amongst the most serious and severe. I mean, I would hate to be whistled at by a woman. It would just be terrible. It would just, I prefer to get my leg cut off and have no other policies other than being whistled at. So I'm quite glad that there is so many women now tackling the serious issues in politics.
More disabled people. More people with diverse backgrounds and experiences.
Yeah, the one from Canada.
I am particularly moved that in this term of Parliament we have
So's my bowels.
crossed what I consider to be a key threshold for culture change.
Oh, culture change. Culture change. Now we're back down to the postmodernist Marxism, is it? Oh, you want a culture change? Say I don't want my culture changed by a Canadian. And who the fuck are you anyway? Who let her in? Why is people just able, right, let me put it this way, let me try and not educate you, I was going to say educate you there. Well, let me try and put this in context, political context from policy. So we Nippy's saying that she nearly de facto wants open immigration policy, and now we've got Horsey Face here from Canada, who's a quasi-communist, sticking in, jumping in, and now she's saying, from just popping up here, she's been here about 20 years, and now she wants to have a culture change in Scotland. Who the hell's she? And this is the difficulty when you've got people who you're just allowing to walk in, who have got no connection to the country, and then putting them in positions of power. And you don't even know who they are. What was Horsey Face's maiden name before it was Slater? Was it Horsey Face?
Within an institution.
All right. Oh, that's great.
And that more than 40% of our MSPs are now women.
Oh, well, it's not if they're going to be good or not, or just lie like Nicola Sturgeon. It's if you've got a vagina. Have you got a vagina? That's it. That's the only thing that matters. I have a vagina. And obviously, as a trans lesbian woman, I haven't got a vagina yet. I've got a vapenis. But if I've got a vagina, that means I'm going to be great. Great. No quality control, but just vagina, I'm in. 40%. And so one of the big things I want to talk about is being wolf whistled at. That, I think, is a pressing issue for me as a vagina, having a vagina. Not the abuse by Muslim asylum seekers of children. Screw that. Don't give a shit about that. Being wolf whistled at as a middle class woman, I don't know who wolf whistle at this, but being wolf whistled at is huge, right up there, top of my priorities as having 40% vagina in the actual Parliament.
45% actually.
Oh great, oh another 5% added, that's truth.
I congratulate all those parties who have worked.
Well, all you want to do is spend everybody's money. That's how we've just gone through your 2018. I'll go through your current manifesto for Scotland. But all it seems is like you want to spend loads of cash renationalising things, which would be a complete waste of money. All that money that you will spend by renationalising things that are working perfectly well just now. We could actually be developing new high-tech, high-growth businesses. But you want to increase taxes on top earners and increase taxes on a big business, which is going to push these industries out, which is going to then in turn reduce the tax rate or the tax returns to finance all your bullshit that is not really required. All right, Lorna. Oh, well, thank God you're here from Canada to tell us all how to run our businesses. Oh, fantastic, Lorna. Have you set up a business, Horsey Face?
Hard to improve their gender balance in order to bring in
gender balance. Oh, we need a gender balance. Not producing children. Screw that. No, let's just all die out in one generation because we need women to work in a gender balance type way. When they've got feminists, we don't know what sort of degrees is coming out. We obviously know there's a problem getting women into the STEM cell. So I don't know what they're actually parts that. Because the women are the majority just now in universities, so I don't know what they're actually studying that's going to improve the gender balance of companies. Is their degree and whatever they're actually studying going to be relative? I know Horsey Face here, I'll come to in a minute, does computer programming, which is good.
Talent and these new perspectives. This is important because when we change who is making decisions, we change outcomes.
Yeah, if we get a bunch of communists trying to steal taxpayers' money and get the state to run businesses and run like water and buses and everything else that the socialists want to run, which we've already seen in the 70s and didn't work very well, seems to be working fine just now. I don't see why we'd have to spend billions of pounds renationalising it for your vanity project, horsey face. Yeah, we are going to get bad outcomes for having idiots like you in the Parliament, but you've got a vagina, so at least you've got a vagina. I think even though you're going to make disastrous policy, and let's talk about trannies for the next 4 years and accessing women having their private spaces accessed by me. That's going to be the most important things. And wolf whistling as well. You've got all the big issues there, haven't you? That's going to be the real culture change that we're going to be looking for in Scotland, isn't it, Lorna?
Will we, as a more diverse group,
do anything productive? I doubt very much.
Have a more positive working culture?
Oh, a positive working culture. Well, you've just said you didn't want to talk to me, so you're not very positive right from the start, are you, Lorna? Not wanting to talk to the indigenous Scottish media. Is that because I'm not one of the protected class of media who will simp for you? Oh, is that what it is, Lorna? Right, I didn't understand that. Oh, well, at least you've got a vagina.
Will there be more cross-party working?
Oh, yeah, well, certainly I think the wee Nippy, the mad lesbo, is getting you as a tranny and wee Moby, the Marxist, into the cabinet with them so they can count your votes.
Such as
but she's in front of the communist fist as well. Let's go and have a wee look at this. I love that. Like, so I've got the black racist communist sign for Black Lives Matter and the Scottish Green Party sign there as well. The Scottish Greens. So I mean, we can just see the sort of trajectory of these types. I think I've got it better. Let's see if we can get this up. Your channel. Oh, I've got it here. This is much better. Look at that. I've got it. So we've got the Vote Green. So this is in Scotland. Vote Green, and we've got the black racist Marxist fist. So how do we look at this as well? Black, red fist. Now here we go. So this is it here. So, and as you can see, oh look, even the Nazis have had it. So the National Socialists have had it as well. Oh, what fantastic! So we've got the racist BLM, anti-white racist BLM, and now we've got, the use of the fist as a salute by communists and anti-fascists, which are just communists, is first evidenced in 1924 when it was adopted for the Communist Party of Germany, Roter Front Camp. So don't forget, wee Nippy is in front of the black fist, which is just a take on this, in front of that sign where she's in front of a neo-communist fist, which we've just seen that the Greens are also supporting, who have killed 100 million people. Let's have a look at them. So let's get Alliance of Red Front Fighters. In reaction, the Nazi Party adopted the well-known Roman salute 2 years later. The gesture was a raised fist, was apparently known in the United States as well, and is in a photograph from May Day March in New York City in 1939. It perhaps best known in the era from its use in the Civil War, where the communists were the anti-fascists, as a greeting by the Republican faction, and known as the Popular Front salute, or the anti-fascist salute, or the neo-communist salute. So let's look at the death numbers. Black. So, absolutely fascinating. Wikipedia, Black Book of Communism. Let's have a wee look at the numbers here. Oh, here we go. So, estimated numbers of victims under communism. So, wee Nippy's in front of the black fist. So, she's obviously supporting black Marxism under the fist. That's obviously wee Nippy's preference, ideological preference. So let's look at the communists and see the estimated numbers of deaths that wee Nippy in our authoritarian manner seems to be moulding herself into. According to the introduction, the number of people killed by the communist government amounts to more than 94 million. And there you've got, if you go to 8, gives you some of the places where you can actually find documentation of this. The statistics, and this is also not including like the French Revolution, who also murdered people just for who they were as well. Statistics of victims include deaths through execution, man-made hunger. I don't know, Ethiopia is here. So if you can remember, Live Aid, and that was under a communist regime. And I love the Ethiopians. The Ethiopians are a great bunch. And that was under a communist regime that the Ethiopians were starving. One of whom, I think, the member of that governance is now with who? The World Health Organization. Oh my God. And let's have a wee look at... I'll go back to Horseface in a minute. Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci. I'm going to play the wee song because I quite like this wee guy. I think the wee guy's autistic. Yeah, he is there. So catchy. Cringe but catchy.
Dr. Fauci, give us vaccines. Help all the people who have been quarantined. We'll wear our masks and we'll have to stay distant.
We'll do what we're told by a bunch of authoritarian pissed off artists.
And we'll be more resistant. Fauci, yes? Promise us, please. We'll have a cure that can fight off this disease. Restrictions will lift with some ease. Dr. Fauci, don't forget me.
Yeah. So, that's not what I was going to show you anyway, but I really enjoy that. So, here we go.
Dr. Fauci,
Dr.
Fauci. You are aware it is a crime to lie to Congress.
Me Nippy thinks it's an obligation.
One of the U.S. Criminal Code creates a felony and a 5-year penalty for lying to Congress. On your last trip to our committee on May 11th...
So don't forget Nicola Sturgeon's up for her second misleading of Parliament about Donald Trump.
Stated that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And yet, gain-of-function research was done entirely in the Wuhan Institute by Dr. Shi and was funded by the NIH. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the Wuhan virology paper entitled Discovery of a Rich Gene Pool of Bat SARS-Related Coronaviruses. Please deliver a copy of the journal article to Dr. Fauci. In this paper, Dr. Shi credits the NIH and lists the actual number of the grant that she was given by the NIH. In this paper...
So apparently the Americans have given funding to the Wuhan lab, where allegedly there's been allegations that this is where the virus has come out of. So Dr. Fauci's mob, and they're now arguing about terminology of what is, I can't remember the name of it, it'll come in a second.
Paper. She took 2 bat coronavirus genes, spike genes, and combined them with a SARS-related backbone to create new viruses that are not found in nature. These lab-created viruses were then shown to replicate in humans. These experiments combine genetic information from different coronaviruses that infect animals, but not humans, to create novel artificial viruses able to infect human cells. Viruses that in nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of...
So gain a function, that's what it is. So when you actually deliberately gerrymander, it sounds like two viruses to put it together, that could potentially be how COVID has been started, which is, as he's alleging, has been funded by something Dr. Fauci has been connected with. And we've all got to take vaccines for it.
Infecting humans. This research...
and if we don't take the vaccines, we're not allowed in the pub, and we're going to have a two-tier society.
Definition.
The ones that has been financed by the corporatist globalists.
Of the research that the NIH said was subject to the pause in 2014 to 2017, a pause in funding on gain of function. But the NIH failed to recognize this, defines it away, and it never came under any scrutiny. Dr. Richard E. Bright, a molecular biologist from Rutgers, described this research in Wuhan as the Wuhan lab used NIH funding to construct novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses able to infect human cells and laboratory animals. This is high-risk research that creates new potential pandemic pathogens that exist only in the lab, not in nature. This research matches, these are Dr. E. Bright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research, done entirely in Wuhan.
Now, Senator Ron Paul is a doctor, a medical doctor as well, as far as I'm aware. Let me just check that. Let me just check. We are working for the state. Repeat. We are working for the state. Ah. Ron Paul, Dr. Ron Paul, coronavirus. So Ron Paul, is it Ron Paul Senior? What's Ron Paul's son? Rand Paul. Is Rand Paul a doctor? Randy boy, Randy. So his dad's the MD. I don't know if he is. Stop it! Two titles. So this is in the Sun, and this is Patrizio Rizzo, SOE reporter, 21st of July 2020. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul and Dr. Anthony Fauci got into a heated debate about the origins of coronavirus. Dr. Fauci and the senator got into a heated exchange during a Senate committee hearing on Tuesday, July 20th. Republican Senator Ron Paul is a Connecticut politician and a physician. Oh, he fizzy eyes. As Senator Ron Paul, he has his own ophthalmology practice and performs eye surgery for 18 years. Paul graduated from Duke University Medical School, so he obviously knows, right? So okay, he's definitely a doctor. It's not like he's a dentist or anything. Medical school in 1988, and completed a general surgery internship at the Georgia Baptist. Yeah, what I really want is if I go to hospital, make sure it's got some religious connotation, just in case I croak it. Georgia Medical Baptist Medical Center in Atlanta, Georgia. He has completed his residency in ophthalmology at Duke University Medical Centre. Right, so he is qualified to be holding Dr. Fauci to account.
There was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Press the button.
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not
it's 5 years in jail.
Retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function.
So this is obviously going to be debated on the technical issues now. So whether the funding has gone for gain of function to transform two viruses to create one that has been potentially leaked from the COVID-19 labs in Wuhan, where it all started. Whether accidentally or on purpose, and now affected the world where we've all just had to be locked in our house for 16 months for a virus that's 99.9% survivable, and that people who are dying are over the natural death rate anyway, majority. So that makes a lot of sense. And then we should be vaccinating our children with God knows what. So, yeah, all makes sense. And Gareth Southgate, the England manager, who I believe that's a guy that's kicked a football about for his adult life, all his adult life, and now manage a football team, is exactly the type of individual I would want recommending what I do with my body. I think if I was looking to look for expert advice, it would definitely be to Gareth Southgate. If he could get off his knees. He's in a very awkward place if he's talking to me when he's kneeling down on one knee. Not really into that.
Let me finish. You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans, right. You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah. What? I mean, everybody at that point should be like, what? I mean, really?
That is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about.
Although he's a medical doctor, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Dr. Fauci knows what he's talking about.
Well, quite frankly, and I want to say that officially.
So, your medical degree isn't worth anything. Mine is super duper, even though we potentially financed Wuhan lab and we try to make a disease that's more amenable to people and financed it. But you, my friend, do not know what you're talking about, even though you're a medical MD. Okay.
You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, you get one person
straight to the NIH gain of function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
Genocide.
Let's Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2.
So let's read this again. Let's hear this again.
That was funded as a sub-award from making is that the grant.
So there was a grant. So we're not debating the fact that money has gone from America to the Chinese lab. Joe Biden saying, the autocracy is the model to follow. We don't want to be a democracy anymore. It's much easier just if we're a totalitarian dictatorship. That from Weekend at Bernie's president.
That was funded as a sub-award from.
So it is an award. Carry on.
To Wuhan.
So we're funding the lab to create viruses, although it's not gain of function, to combine the two viruses that leaked out of the facility that you're facilitating. And now we've been held in the houses for nearly coming up for 2 years because of you funding the actual virus. Is that correct? Am I reading this wrong?
Created SARS-CoV-2. That's where you are getting.
Yeah. So we are thinking that you have funded labs where you have stuck two viruses together, which is then leaked from the labs and created 4 million deaths. Although I find it difficult to believe that 4 million died when they were over the national death rate anyway. But anyway,
Created SARS-CoV-2. That's the point that you are making. Is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan.
So who's EcoHealth?
Aided SARS-CoV-2.
So aided SARS. Well, we don't know that yet, but that's certainly the allegations. I would think that's the allegations more than what we actually know. That's a possibility.
That's where you are getting.
So how do you know, Dr. Fauci, if that happened in the SARS lab, if you're just funding it? How do you know what the Chinese did?
Let me finish. We don't know. Well,
so we don't know.
Wait a minute, it did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
And he might have lied to Congress. I think the 5 years for lying to Congress would be looking like chicken feed if this is more an in-depth conspiracy. But this is from the leaking of the emails.
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator, because...
What lie?
If you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports, that were published in the literature, it is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those viruses caused it.
It is molecularly...
Those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab and NIH funded it.
So they obviously don't know what the outcome of the research was in the lab. So I would suggest that the Congress is probably not knowing, or the Senate is not knowing what exactly happened with the molecular manoeuvres to combine the viruses. They don't know how the Chinese did it, but the Americans were funding it.
That is not...
Well, not the Americans, but whoever this mob is.
From it meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth.
You're basically calling me a liar.
Time is expired, but I will allow the witness to...
Let me just finish. I want everyone to understand that if you look at those viruses, and that's judged by qualified virologists and evolutionary biologists, those viruses are molecularly impossible to result in SARS-CoV-2.
Caused the pandemic. We're saying they are gain-of-function viruses because they were animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And you
admit the truth.
Wow.
You implying...
Paul, your time has expired, and I will allow witnesses who come before this committee to respond.
And you are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individuals. I totally resent that. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
Senator Smith.
Wow.
If you're trying to lose belly...
Right, so what we got? So 65 million people died in the People's Republic of China, 20 million in the Soviet Union, 2 million in Cambodia, 2 million in North Korea, which I think is going up by now, 1.7 million starving in Ethiopia. I noticed, well, I guess that's come under the Soviet Union, the 7 million in Ukraine, 1 million in the Eastern Bloc, 1 million in Vietnam, 150,000 in Latin America, 10,000 deaths results from actions of international communist movements and communist parties not in power, like the Green Party. According to Curtis, the crimes by the Soviet Union include the following: the execution of tens of thousands of hostages and prisoners, the murder of hundreds of thousands of rebellious workers, the workers of the world unite unless you're going to get shot in the head, and peasants from 1918 to 1922, the Russian famine in 1921, which caused the deaths of 5 million people, the de-Cossackization policy of systematic repression against the Don Cossacks between, I've not heard about that, I might look at that later, 1917 and 1933, the murder of tens of thousands of concentration camps in the period of 1918 to 1930, the Great Purge, which killed almost 690,000 people, the Caucasian, whatever, results in the deportation of 2 million so-called kulaks from 1930 to 1932, the death of 4 million Ukrainians, the Holodomor, I think it's up to 7 million, and 2 million others during the famine between 1932 and 1933. Also, funnily enough, in Ethiopia, the same famine from socialist policies. Great, very clever. Deportation of Poles, Ukrainians, Moldovans, and people from the Baltic states in 1939 to 1941, and from 1944 to 1945. The deportation of the Volga Germans in 1941, the deportation of the Crimea Tartars in 1944, Operation Lentil, and the deportation of the Ingus in 1944. This and other communist death tolls have been criticised by the historians and scholars, especially those based on the higher estimates. This and other death tolls have been criticised by some historians and scholars, especially those based on the higher estimates. So it's not the fact that there was massive deaths, it's just the numbers that's the problem. So I guess like Georgie Porgy Galloway, who is obviously always simps for the dictators. Oh, what about the deaths, George? Oh, forget about that. Any attempt to establish a total number of killings under communist regimes depends greatly on definitions. Ranging from as low as 10 to 20 million to as high as 110 million, which is still significantly more than the National Socialists, again another socialist movement. So there we go. Where's Horseface? Come on, Horseface, let's hear about how great it is. Oh, we need to change the culture.
National Care Service, housing, education.
Spend more money.
And
tax more, spend more money. Don't increase the growth of the private sector.
Tackling the climate and nature emergency.
You're not going to tackle the climate emergency or the climate change, because unless you tackle China, USA and India and others, you're not going to reduce climate from Scotland alone. Although we should move to zero carbon or even a positive carbon imprint on the world by increasing tree plantations.
Will we be able to think long term?
No, you won't. All you want to do is tax and spend and reduce the business and reduce business. Like Wee Nippy wants to do exactly the same. So you and Moby and her will be actually common bedfellows and making Scotland a less fair, more self-entitled place, which is what you'll want.
To think about the well-being of our people.
Yeah, you can't even answer questions when I ask them.
And stewardship of our land and resources.
Stewardship of our land and our resources.
Rather than allowing exploitation and extraction.
So we've not to extract anything, have we? Is that it? You've decided we're not extracting anything. So you want to destroy the North Sea oil already, and that's you just in power, and you're not a bunch of wacky yahoos. This isn't the Village Idiots Party, no, not at all.
I have hope, Presiding Officer, because these are challenging times.
Yeah, because Nippy's locked us in their house for 16 months.
The climate emergency
and destroys small and medium-sized businesses.
Requires this government and this parliament to take bold, transformative action.
More communism by the back door, more big spend, big government, and let Dopey here control large swathes of industry, which I don't think she's really capable of doing.
The pandemic requires a commitment to investment and rebuilding.
Yeah. Give money to the entrepreneurs, not your bloody civil servants, to the entrepreneurs. It's the entrepreneurs that create wealth. High tech, high growth entrepreneurs. That's where you want to put the money.
The majority of pro-independent MSPs returned to this Parliament means that we need to have a national conversation about the Constitution and...
Yeah, but we've already lost the last referendum, and you don't listen. You don't even want to answer questions, never mind listen. So that's probably going to be a big problem for you, because you're already set in your wee socialist, potentially neo-Marxist, postmodernist Marxist ways, with your identity politics and your gender and race critical theories.
And what kind of country we want to be.
One that's not controlled by Canadians.
Do we want to be welcoming to refugees?
Well, it's already been decided that we're going to be forced with refugees. People are just walking into the country now, willy-nilly, with de facto open immigration policies. And we don't know who these refugees are, where they're from, and what they represent. They could be a danger to us and our way of life. So it depends, is the answer to that. And economic and illegal immigrants should be deported. This should not be a de facto open immigration policy. We'll see in your manifesto in a second if you've actually allocated for an open immigration policy. But I don't support an open immigration policy, and I think we should have a referendum to find out what the Scottish people think.
Do we want to be a world leader in renewable energy?
Well, okay, that's all secondary issues. So it's a bit like saying, do we want to be world leaders in health? Yeah. Well, that's great, but it's not generating growth in the economy. Generating world leaders in making electricity, for instance, or world leaders in designing cars that are don't run in petrol could be exported. But the most important thing is high-tech, high-growth jobs, because that's going to increase our GDP, which we nippy in TED Talk says, I don't want to do that. I want to live in parks, and absolute nonsense, the same nonsense you're talking.
And have town and city centres that are designed for people.
Designed for people? No.
Rather than cars.
Well, you're still going to have to drive there. If you stay miles away, you're still going to have to drive there. I don't, but people can drive there. They might have children, they might have other requirements that would best fit a car. What you need is obviously cars that are chargeable and buses that don't emit CO2. And then we can blast the buildings and turn them back to the beautiful way they were.
Do we want blood sports on our hills?
Yes, we've always been shooting and farming. Just because you're a fucking vegan doesn't mean everybody else has to be one.
Or sustainable agriculture.
Well, we've already got sustainable agriculture. What sort of the sustainability of agriculture are you talking about? No context to your actual statements.
Forestry.
What, say that again about forestry? Yeah, plant more trees. Plant more trees.
I have hope, presiding officer, because the people of Scotland did vote like their future depended on it.
I'm gobsmacked they voted for the Greens, definitely the Village Idiot Tranny Party.
Election, voting in record numbers for the Scottish Greens.
Honestly, my heart sinks every time Scotland goes to the vote.
Turning the largest ever number of Green MSP.
the Tranny Party, the Tranny Village Idiot, Moby and the Marxist Party.
The people have asked for practical, life-changing policies.
Where you can run a bath, never mind run the country, and you want to renationalise this and renationalise that, and no, for goodness sake.
New jobs in renewable energy, warm homes.
I've got warm homes. In fact, I'm too warm just now. I don't know who's in the not warm homes. It's probably the ones that have been built by the state.
Upgraded railways.
Right, so we'll potentially, in foreseeable future, going to have a hyperloop. So we're going to spend money on upgrading a railway where if the hyperloop works, which looks increasingly possible because it's open source, and Richard Branson he's just gone into space and he seems to be cracking on with the hyperloop. The hyperloop, if we wait to get the hyperloop, we're going to actually be able to travel to Aberdeen in minutes. from like Edinburgh or even Glasgow, and we could actually travel right down to Belfast and then down through the underground tunnel or through the Irish Sea, down to Dublin, potentially back in down the south of Ireland to Wales, Swansea and Cardiff, and then out towards Bristol probably, and out towards London, and then down towards the Channel Tunnel. So the Hyperloop, rather than HS2, it means that a train from London, from Edinburgh to London or Glasgow to London would be commuter belt. You'd be able to commute daily if the prices were low enough from Edinburgh to London on the Hyperloop, and that's where we should be looking at just now, because it seems to be going forward quite fast in America.
Stronger links to Europe.
Oh, she's banging on about Europe.
We can take many of these steps now without waiting for independence. But completing the necessary transformation must also involve asking the people of Scotland to choose their own future.
Right, which was already done. What I would suggest you do is get a referendum for Devo Max, because if you get, which might actually be successful, if you get a Devo Max referendum, it means we're still in the UK, but we get much more powers to the Scottish Parliament. So that would be my suggestion, because if you get another referendum and you fail, you're not going to, you and the SNP are pretty much screwed, and then we're going to have to drill down on your policies, which are all shit, and the SNP.
Building the case for independence, which is based on transformation, on building the Scotland we want to see.
Who wants to see? You want to see? That might not be universally applicable, and you don't seem to want to answer questions with people who may not want to see the Scotland that you want to see. Don't forget, you only got, let's see what you got. So, there you are. So, Horsey Face got maybe the maximum in the regional list 220,000 votes. So let's not kid on. You've got a massive agenda. Let's be generous and let's say 250,000 votes. So let's not be, and you're only 8 point. See, I'll add the two of them together, although I would suggest that probably that 34,000 isn't that 220,000. You've got 10% of the population. So let's not kid on you. The only reason that you're in a position of power is because the SNP requires your votes because they were one short. Let's not kid on you. There's a massive support for the loony left Greens. You're on a very slim wicket.
A fair and green Scotland that is in charge of its own destiny.
Yeah.
We can invest in jobs and the economic recovery, reduction of carbon emissions.
It's entrepreneurs you want to invest in. I don't know how I have to keep telling you this. I know you don't want to listen, and this is a problem with you. I think all that hair is flopping about in your ears, and you become so arrogant. You seem a very arrogant woman, Lorna. So when I just briefly spoke to you, all the Greens seem absolutely like a bunch of absolute village idiots, as I said.
And improve the quality of life for everyone in Scotland.
Well.
We just have to choose to do so. We, us. The people in this room. Presiding officer, I am hoping that the First Minister and everyone in this room will consider the nature of the multiple crises that we face and will commit to working in the...
As I said, even if we go fully reduction in CO2 in the world, unless you start to maybe you can talk to them because you're a communist as well, go and speak to the Chinese Communist Party and start to say to them, maybe we should just ship you over there, and that'll kill two birds with one stone. You as a communist will be a bunch of in amongst a bunch of other communists, and then you can do your green crap over there, where where it would be significantly better, and you're probably on a political spectrum with them as well.
The spirit of cooperation and constructively across party lines to make the kind of transformative changes that are needed to protect our environment and ensure an economy that works for everyone. I never know what to say about myself. I'm an electromechanical engineer. I work in tidal energy.
So somebody in green energy wants to have more green energy jobs, okay.
Live in Leith.
I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's not. I'm not against it, to be honest with you. It's not. I think it's quite impressive that she's done it anyway. So I'm not against her. I'm not against her being here. I maybe don't agree with people who are not from here being allowed to just jump into the Scottish Parliament, but there's political reasons for that.
In Edinburgh, which I love, I do recreational circus as a hobby. I was born in Calgary in Canada, and I went to university in Vancouver on the coast, where I got a dual degree in electromechanical engineering. Then,
is that a dual degree? Is it okay?
The month before I graduated, I handed in my thesis and bought myself a one-way ticket to Glasgow.
And we're all glad you're here.
So I arrived in Glasgow with nothing but my backpack and a lot of student loan debt. My intention was to come for a couple of years and use my, what at that time was an EU passport to travel through the EU and explore, but I ended up staying and made Scotland my home. So I've been in Scotland since the year 2000.
20 years.
When I first came to Edinburgh, I didn't know anybody.
I've got shoes that are older than that.
And I was all alone. So I joined every amateur dramatic group going. One night, though, I was persuaded to come to the pub with the cast, and I ended up sitting across from Gordon, and we had a competition as to who was geekier.
Oh my God.
And we started out with, well, who knows the most programming languages? Who is into science fiction and fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons? Well, we both were. So the only way to resolve it was and we ended up dating, and as my friend says, we were a match made in geek heaven, really. So we've been together for 16 years. I tell people quite a lot that I would very much like to be Scottish, and I would. It will be the proudest day of my life when I...
Yeah, that's great.
Have a Scottish passport.
And I'm sure your communism is going to go down in Scotland. That's what we need. We need more lefties, because the left haven't made enough mistakes in Scotland.
But people are always really kind to me, and they say to me, if you live in Scotland, you're Scottish.
Yeah, only Nicola Sturgeon says that.
I was never involved in politics. Then in 2014, the referendum on Scottish independence came around. Before that time, I had always been a Green voter.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I bet you're a vegetarian as well, or a vegan.
Values, but it always seemed to me that Green parties were quite small. They were a bit on the periphery.
But Wee Moby, where's Wee Moby? We'll get Moby in a minute.
But suddenly, during the independence campaign, Green, yes, was everywhere. Suddenly, I could
the Marxists were everywhere in Scotland.
See that being involved in Green politics could really make a difference.
Yeah, more socialism. It's worked a treat up here so far.
And so, like so many other people did, in the 2 weeks after the Scottish independence referendum, I joined the Greens, because it really felt like we had missed an opportunity to do something different, to make a significant change, to build a different country. And I felt like I couldn't let that opportunity go by.
She's always about building a different country. Why is she here if she wants to build a different country? Why didn't she just stay in Canada? How do you know that we, the Indigenous population, want you to build a different country? Who the hell are you? You've been here 20 years.
Possibly what I'm most excited about in this election is our candidate.
Trannies, probably. The gay party, the gay village idiot tranny party.
Scottish Greens have an immense wealth of talent and...
Oh dear, for a Division 4 team.
Enthusiasm with our candidates. All of our new incoming candidates are women.
Oh, fantastic. We need the vaginas! Vaginas! And you're only talented if you've got a vagina.
backgrounds. We have disabled women,
vagina women,
women with university degrees.
Oh, no way. No, you women with university degrees. Wow, that's the patriarchy for you.
Women without university degrees.
Oh, Nicola Sturgeon.
Women who are expert in their field.
No, Nicola Sturgeon.
Women who are mothers.
No, Nicola Sturgeon.
Women who are not mothers.
Nicola Sturgeon.
Women who lived in different parts of the world.
They're not from Scotland and want to change it. Oh, great, that'll be you.
We have such a wealth of experience.
Oh, I can't wait to hear these commies expanding their wealth of knowledge for us all. Oh, fantastic.
There. And I am most excited about bringing these talented people to our
Probably all lesbians.
Scottish Parliament. I don't think the future is going to be bleak. I think the future can be brilliant. In fact, I know the future can be brilliant.
Oh, listen, but what we have been waiting for, Lorna, is for you to come from Canada and help us make the Scotland more brilliant. What we want to do, listen to this, is we want to spend billions of pounds renationalising everything, because that's going to make a massive difference in our life, Lorna. And for a greener Scotland, although we've got 50% renewables and rising at present, so we're well on the way. What's the Green Party going to do once we actually get to zero emissions or even positive emissions? Is the Green Party going to disappear up its own Khyber? What are they going to do then? Are we going to be able to ship you, Moby, and all the rest of the Marxists over to China, and you to tackle China's CO2 emissions, or America's, or India's? We'll chip in and put you anywhere you want. We'll let you continue on your way, on your world travel.
We just have to decide to make it so. We have to decide that we really want to see change.
Not the change that you want. Not interested in renationalising everything. What a waste of money. That's not going to also increase the. You could probably legislate for the private companies to do certain things, but if you wanted to change it, but to spend billions of pounds to actually renationalise things is just a complete waste of money, and not something I really want. You could do other things that will change the dynamic. If you don't, you seem to be in a party that wants to spend tons of money, push postmodernist Marxist ideology, and overly tax and regulate business, which is going to decrease the tax revenue and not be able to allow you to afford what you want to do. I mean, it's absolutely mental. I don't actually think you actually acknowledge how absolutely batshit crazy your policies are. Let's see wee Sheila Malone, my wee pal. Sheila Malone! What are you saying, guys? They are exceptionally poorly educated mumbletons, i.e. fudge everything based on fiction and lies. Well, I don't think that's incorrect. Let's see wee Sheila. Quite enjoyed it. I like chatting to Sheila. I wasn't looking my best that day. I don't know what was happening. Look gorgeous now, but Sheila Malone, Guerilla TV channel. Sheila Malone. So this is a fascinating one. I don't know how long this will. 12 minutes. I don't know what was happening to my face there. Oh look, monetized. So
here we are outside Parliament with, what's your name? Sheila Malone.
She's a lovely lady.
Handing out pamphlets and leaflets for the newly formed Brexit Party. And how did you get into the Brexit Party, Sheila?
Well, I've been here outside Parliament for the last 5 months, protesting against our Parliament and our MPs not carrying out the democratic mandate, because the majority of British people voted to leave the EU, but we've got a Parliament that is stuffed full of Remainers who don't want us to leave, and so they're refusing to carry out. So I'm here first and foremost about democracy, because actually if that happens, if our own elected representatives don't carry out the promises that they promised to us, then that's very bad for democracy. People lose faith in it. People kind of turn away from politics altogether and think, oh no, I'm not going to bother, which is really bad. So that's the first reason that I'm here.
And whereabouts in England are you from?
I'm from North Islington.
Oh, so from London then? But I mean, obviously Lord Adonis has said that Brexiteers should vote for the Labour Party now.
No, he said
Brexiteers should not vote for the Labour Party. Yeah.
Well, the Labour Party is the party of Remain.
Oh.
They campaign on Remain.
Well, I think all of them. Every party is a Remain party. Every one of the political parties are corporativist globalists and on some sort of postmodernist Marxism as well.
2016. And probably 3/4 of their membership and most of their MPs support Remain. They have a position.
Although 5 million Labour voters were Brexiteers in the North and Midlands.
They took this decision to either pivot towards a Remainer sort of metropolitan.
Yeah, that didn't work well, did it? They pivoted towards the metropolitan elite and they got absolutely tanked in the Red Wall. And I predicted that happened as well, my baby gorillas.
Or their elite working class voters.
And just abandon them then?
Absolutely.
Do you think Nigel's already trying to target the Labour Brexiteers in the North and Midlands and also in Wales as well? Because they're obviously, because the London elite don't, or the London left elite don't seem to be interested in immigration. They don't seem to be. They seem to have turned their back on everything like that as well. How did you get into the Brexit? Is Nigel a champion of yours?
My background is left and green.
So she said, I'll just put that back. This is where I was coming to with this, and left green. It's wee while since I was Sheila speaking. She's very softly spoken, but sometimes they're the best ones to listen to.
Is Nigel a champion of yours?
My background is left and green.
Left green.
Oh, do you?
I campaigned with him against the common market, against Maastricht, against this.
You seem to have done a 360. Or a 180, should I say, rather than 360?
I was mortified. And so this is what we do right about. He's turned his back. He's taken for granted that working class voters will always vote Labour. But because of left, I mean, that's my background. I then spent time in the Green one. They're even worse than the Labour Party.
They're even worse than the Labour Party. Did you hear that? Did you hear? Are you listening to young Sheila? Listen to young Sheila again. Let's hear her. Go on, Sheila. Tell us it again.
I then spent time in the Green one. They're even worse than the Labour Party.
They're even worse than the Labour Party. Oh, yeah, because they're batshit crazy.
I was nearly assaulted by an MSP up in Scotland there in the Green Party there. I was asking if there were extremists in the Green Party there. Certainly fanatics anyway. Yeah, so you came from the left and now joined up with Nigel. So what's your thoughts on Nigel? I think he's highly competent.
Well, he's an astute politician. What he's done is actually, this Brexit party that I'm a supporter of is quite ideologically diverse. You know, there's George Galloway supporters, there's Claire Fox, there's Lucia Rees-Mogg, and Willie Cohen. Right, so it's...
A big political panoply on the issue.
At the moment, only has one policy.
So, I just wanted to show young Sheila's fantastic synopsis of the Green Party. Let's just finish off this.
And the kind of changes that we're proposing are changes that are good for everyone.
It says you.
It's like a 4-day working week.
A 4-day working week. So the Scottish economy, just like wee Nippy said as well, the GDP doesn't matter. So that's just going to be a disaster as well.
Things like more affordable public transportation.
Right, okay, I agree with that.
Things like upgrading our homes so that they're warm to live in.
I'm feeling that I'm actually needing some sort of air conditioning because they're that warm. I don't want them any warmer.
Things like
I've never had my heating on maybe apart from maybe a close fire. Never had my heating on in here.
Starting school at age 7, so that...
Right, so there are reasons behind children going to school, but if you've got working parents, you're going to have baby childcare for that period of time while the parents are away.
Little kids have more time to play and develop their social skills and their creativity and their self-confidence before they have to get into school. These are all game-changing, some would say radical ideas.
Yeah, communist.
But this is exactly what we need.
Says you.
To upend society.
So a socialist wants to upend your society,
make the dramatic changes we need to tackle the climate crisis.
It's not you in Scotland are not going to tackle the climate crisis. Even if the whole of the UK overnight reduces its CO2 to nothing, we are still, if this is correct, we are still going to have increases in the CO2 emissions because the major pollutions are coming from China, the US and India in that sequence. And unless we can put you over in China, Laura, which seems like it would be a good fit with the Chinese Communist Party. You're wasting your time here. It's too small. We've already had massive inroads. We've got some like 70, let's see, Scotland's renewable So in 2015, Scotland generated 59% of its electric consumption through renewable sources, exceeding the country's goal of 50%. It's nothing more up to date. In 2018, Scotland exported 28% of generation. 2019, renewables generated made up 90% of gross electricity consumption. So what are you going to do? But the electricity's pretty much done. We can increase it, but we're just going to be exporting it. Which is not a bad thing. I guess it goes for the GDP, which me Nippy doesn't want to talk about. So so the Greens are becoming an irrelevance. Okay, so we go into cars. We could start manufacturing cars that don't run in batteries, which would be fine. We could take a lead on that. But we're already pretty much done. And in 2019, renewable electricity generated made up 90% of gross electricity consumption. In decreasing order of capacity, Scotland's renewable generation comes from onshore wind, hydropower, offshore wind, solar PV and biomass. So there's not very much to do. And from the electricity point of view, not very much at all. So it's not the Greens are becoming an irrelevance from the green energy stuff. You're just becoming a far left socialist party with all your we want to reduce working 4-day weeks, and that will reduce our GDP. We'll become less competitive in the world as well. All it is far left talking points, which have already failed so many other times. Some of the parts you can pick out, but the other parts you could also increase tree planting. But the rest of it is a total sham. This is a sham party. Now,
to stop poverty,
So you're going to stop poverty by working 4 days a week. So by reducing the GDP, which will have a negative impact on tax receipts, is going to actually help stop poverty. What will stop poverty is high growth, high tech jobs and funding entrepreneurs, Laura. And the fact that you don't know that because you're a socialist means that you're not going to help Scotland.
Make sure that the children of Scotland, that every kid in Scotland has a great life ahead of them and lots of opportunities.
Right, so one of the ways you're going to do that is by mass testing and testing every child for multiple learning difficulties so that no child is left behind because of undiagnosed learning difficulties. Just now we're only getting a percentage. It's not a comprehensive system on multiple learning difficulties. That's one way that is a practical implication that you'll change children's lives, rather than the waffly nonsense that you've just gone on about. If it was a choice buying back water and bringing in comprehensive testing for children with specific learning difficulties, I know which one I'd pick. What else we got? Moby. Where's me, Moby?
I offer my congratulations and those of the Scottish Green Party.
It's just a party of middle class self-entitlement. There's me, Moby here.
How do I describe myself? I'm somewhat a politician.
Patrick's actually a nice guy. I actually like Patrick Harvey as on a personal level. Obviously, because his politics is a bit daft, that's an issue. But on a personal level, I like Patrick Harvey.
As the voice of the irresponsible, left-led, anti-family, anti-Christian gay whales.
Anti-family, anti-Christian gay whales against bombing the coalition, but also seems to be very much for critical race theory and pro-black Marxist racism, a bit like wee Nippy, and what else is it? Norwich. So they didn't commemorate the deaths of 22 children in Manchester, but they seem to have want to commemorate George Floyd's. So they're a bit of a racist. If you're not part of the progressive stack, then they're quite racist. They don't want to deal with you. They're quite happy to push you out.
Human beings are natural storytellers. The purpose of story.
Norwich City Council lighting up one of the city's most recognisable landmarks to mark the first anniversary of the death of George Floyd. The City Hall was lit yellow, pink and turquoise in remembrance of his death and all black lives lost in the aftermath. Mr. Floyd died, of course, in Minneapolis.
I think there was a lot of black people killed by Marxists and Black Lives Matter, and there was a lot of black people killed after that as well by the communists that the Green Party seemed to be aligning themselves with.
Derek Chauvin, the police officer, knelt on his neck and was found guilty of the murder.
But they didn't mention anything about, what's the guy... So, but they didn't mention anything about the white guy. This looks like it was a police meal on Timmy Cotton's neck. This is it here. So they're only interested in promoting, and again it comes down to the so they're doing the same as they did with thing with this. So that's the white guy, but the Green Party aren't interested in that. They're basically racists as well. And if it happens to white guy and white guy, they're not interested. They're only interested in pushing the race-based thing. I think this fella died as well. But no mention by the Green Party of that. The Greens seem to be quite selective of who's on their side and who they actually want to do. They're obviously pushing the postmodernist Marxist agenda. What's that fella's name? So it's obviously a problem, and as far as I'm aware, it wasn't a racial incident. It's obviously a police incident where people in different parts of the country are facing the knee on the neck scenario, and it should have been seen as a a policing issue that people shouldn't be getting the nailed on the neck, but because it's a white guy and a white guy, also filmed, but because obviously the Green Party are intersectional racists and feminists and don't like white men, just like wee Nippy doesn't like white men, they didn't take any notice of that. They didn't take any notice of the 22 children killed in Manchester anyway, didn't like the thing up for that. So they're quite selective in who they actually allow that to happen. Can't breathe. Cop kneeled on Florida man's neck for 4 minutes before he died. Lawsuit. So this guy's name was Timothy Kaufman. So Timothy Kaufman, who struggled with mental illness, was beaten with batons and tasered. But obviously that didn't make the headlines because it's not in the corporatist globalist agenda. So that predated the George Floyd thing. There's video of this and what the George Floyd was hijacked by the Marxists, and obviously now seeing dopey Joe Biden's it's great to have an autocracy palaver and allowed to ferment BLM and Antifa in democratic cities. This didn't fit their agenda.
He's likely to be spending the rest of his life in jail. He'll be sentenced in June. Why has the death of George Floyd become an event in this way? Leslie Graham is Green Councillor for Thorpe Hamlets in Norwich City Council, who was one of those who asked for City Hall to be lit up for this anniversary. Good afternoon to you, Leslie.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on your show.
Another member of the Village Idiots.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
That there are many tragedies which deserve to be commemorated, and if there's one...
But if it fits your left-wing racist ideology, postmodernist Marxist ideology, then you're globalist as well, you're prepared to push it.
One that you're particularly concerned about, I would encourage you to talk to your council and light up City Hall.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance that they'll say yes. You don't have to be a councillor to do that.
Nice.
The council is there for you. So it's about who we're commemorating.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't understand. I mean, obviously we're not in America, and this didn't happen in America. But yeah, Norwich Council doesn't light up for 22 children killed in a bomb attack in Manchester. I mean, really?
That's lovely to hear that.
They didn't do it for Timothy Kaufman. But obviously, this issue it fits their political agenda.
Well, penning a little note to your council. Some might say, however, that some things are kind of self-evident, really. That if you've got the anniversary of Manchester, the anniversary of Lee Rigby, the last thing you'd want to do on that very day would have a commemoration to a citizen who died 4,000 miles away in Minneapolis at the hands of a madman.
It's not either or. Nobody should.
But you haven't done anything. The or is not. You've not done anything for.
Diet.
It is a priority, isn't it?
You have a young woman in hospital fighting for her life after being attacked, and we don't know who by. But already the police are saying it probably wasn't a racist attack. Well, maybe it wasn't. But isn't that a...
Well, it's proved there was nothing racist about it, or nothing said that it was racist about it. And obviously, the Timothy Kaufman is obviously a policing problem, not just a racial problem. And I would like to know where the origins of kneeling on your neck came from. I have my suspicions of who actually taught the American police to kneel on the neck.
Line of investigation that they should be taken.
Yes, indeed, and maybe they have information to make that initial statement. I don't know. I mean, I think to bring it back to what you guys did in Norwich, I think some people might think, well, what would be the reason you would arrive at...
Because they're communists, and communists are out-group people. They want open borders. They don't care about the indigenous population. That's what they're about. That's why horse-faced Laura Slater wants to allow open-door immigration, even though she's not from here.
A story from another country and a citizen from another, terrible as it was, global as it was. What would be your reasons for focusing on that above some pretty obvious areas that domestically would perhaps be more helpful or relevant to both people in Norwich and beyond?
Well, sadly, George Floyd is not alone in having been murdered by the police. What makes him unique or almost unique is having been filmed being murdered. And so my thoughts go out to everyone who's been bereaved and who is grieving. But another thing that died on that day is the ability of people not affected by racism to imagine.
But it didn't say anything was racist. I mean, there's more chance of it looks like it's a practice by the police, whether it be white or black, with Timothy Kaufman, but nothing in the things. But you've obviously decided to interject that it was a racist thing, because it fits your anti-white racist agenda. Sure, it's the racist in the Green Party. We'll see in a minute.
That people who to deny the systemic racism that's allowed.
Oh, systemic racism. So we're now back to systemic racism. So systemic racism, it's obviously the bugbear by the intersectional left, which is obviously what the Greens are, the postmodernist Marxists. So I was back to, they had to change it through the Frankfurt School, back to the 100 million people have died, and we see the same mistakes. But yet now she's able to shout institutional racism over something where the white guy got murdered and she didn't say anything about it. So this looks like it was institutional abuse of power or authoritarianism, or whatever way you want to say it. But you would really want to find out who taught the police to actually kneel on somebody's neck, because there's a white guy, or a white guy kneeling the white guy's neck and a white guy kneeling the black guy's neck, and it looks like that was the issue, not systemic racism. It was the kneeling on the neck and police reform that was the issue. But you're able to beat the drum of the systemic racist crap because you're a communist. You're part of the postmodernist Marxist communists.
As such events to happen.
What's racism got to do with it? This was nothing to do with racism, Leslie.
So, yeah. But they're not interested in whether it's to do with racism. It's only to push their agenda. And let's have a wee look where the word racist came from. So, the origins of the word racist. So it came from another communist who was part of, there is an urban legend that has been floating around for some years now that the word racist was coined by Leon Trotsky for the purpose of cowing and intimidating opponents of leftist ideology. In his history of the Russian Revolution, Trotsky applied the word racist to Slavophiles who opposed communism. So the undermining of the state by communists, they would call anybody a racist. So that has not changed. And obviously Trotsky was part of the communist death squads who murdered hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, until he had to escape, this Jewish communist. Just for the word etymology, the word race was a suffix added, and it is not immediately apparent why the word is supposed to be inherently derogatory. Words like anarchist or communist or fascist have negative connotations for many people, but this has become because of their perspective on anarchism, communism and fascism, not because the word are inherently derogatory. The word communism, anarchism and fascism have objective context towards which one may be positive or negative disposed. Likewise, the word racist objectively it seems to denote someone whom race is a concern. So the word race is a concern, okay. So communists, so like the Black Lives Matter, communist racists think that race is a concern, okay. It is not possible that Trotsky used the word regardless of what his feelings about racism may have been, where was merely descriptive. So insofar as the effort of Slavs to assert their presence, their Slavic identity, inherently involves a concern with race, and are not racist, as Trotsky regarded them essentially just a species of anti-communists. So a racist is just an anti-communist, almost. So that's very interesting. Rejecting submersions into non-descriptive humanity under alien personalities and interests, or so-called conservatives in the United States do not ask such questions. If the left use a term with negative feelings attached, or conservatives accept what the term denotes is objectively negative. If leftists and the Jew-controlled mass media, that's not me saying that, that's me reading it, mass media disapprove of racist and racism, or so-called conservatives will not dispute the value judgment for the purposes of rhetoric. They will even embrace it. Conservatives outwardly accept that racists and racism are bad and will not challenge them. Right, let's skip on here. Did Trotsky really invent the word? No, apparently not. The work in which Trotsky is supposed to have coined the word was written and published in Russia in 1930. I found several examples of the French form racist preceding Trotsky's use of the word racist. I find the Pini racist, French of racist thought, individuality, and racist individuality in the volume of La Toro d'Orc, Reviso something, periodical champion the cultural and ethnic identity of people in southern France for the year 1906. Here the word racist was used with a hint of negativity. Right, but I still would suggest that Trotsky, whether or not be the first, even in 1906, is going to be probably the publication that actually exempted it, they actually broadcast it furthest, because I would suspect that these public periodical or these books weren't probably as massively read as Trotsky's. While racists were bad people for Leon Trotsky, some people in 1906 did not share the value judgment because they had a different perspective and different interests. Why should I accept the value judgment of my enemies? The label racist is only an effective attack if it is perceived as one, which means only if value judgment attached to it is accepted. Don't accept that. There you go. So just don't accept the fact that everything's racist. Systematic racism, don't accept it. If you refrain from using a barrage of flat counterattacks the way conservatives do to avoid talking about your own real values, then you can be sincere, really communicate with people. You might even have a chance to explain that almost everybody is racist and that is normal. That's what the left are trying to do. So, Charles Matelo's Philosophy d'Anarchie in 1897, we both find racist and racism. So there's probably smaller books, but obviously the anarchists moved on. It depends on where the anarchists were, whether anarcho-capitalists or anarcho-communists or anarcho-syndicalists. But obviously it moved on. But I would suggest that these publications were not as big as Trotsky's ones. I would suggest that there's been more copies of Trotsky's than anybody else's. A piece of National Public Radio, Jen Demi, The Ugly Fascinating History of the Word Racism, 6th of January 2014, cites the Oxford English Dictionary to the efforts, the first used of racism, but not racist, in English was by Richard Pratt in 1902, 5 years after Matteo's use of racism in French. Pratt was a Baptist religious zealot who was particularly devout to stamping out the identities of various North American tribes through assimilation. So, very interesting. So, by Richard Henry Pratt and his Carlisle Indian Industry School is the ultimate implication of anti-racism. It is remarkable that anyone pretends to be confused about that. Well, anyway, so that's quite interesting as well. So, these are really pushing the globalist agenda as well, the Marxist, globalist, anti-white, racist, globalist agenda, critical race theory. Only interested in pushing the one side of the story.
Floyd's murder was everything to do with racism.
No, it wasn't. There was no racist component to it at all.
I would dispute that.
So I've just shown you that there was another fellow, a white fellow, that was killed in exactly the same way as George Floyd, not even touched on the press. So,
whose world is it okay to?
I don't think anybody's world it's okay for that to have happened. I would suggest that was a practice that needed to be stopped by the police. I don't think there was anything positive that could come out of that practice by the police, regardless of people's ethnicity.
To treat anybody like that.
Well, it's not okay to treat anybody, but the issue is whether...
Nobody, it's not acceptable to treat nobody like that.
It was a racist element. If you look at the court papers and follow the case...
It seems like it's a policing issue. And the fact is that you shouldn't kneel on people's necks. Maybe that's just the long and the short of what we found out, that you shouldn't be kneeling on people's necks, both from Timothy and obviously from Floyd.
This wasn't a racist murder, George. Murder. There wasn't a racist element to it whatsoever. There was no.
But it was utilised as a racist by the media, by the left, by Black Lives Matter, by Antifa, by our own government, by the race baiters in our own society, and pushed as that.
Accusation of it or no suggestion of it.
You ask
any You didn't know that, did you?
You ask any family. Listen this.
It was a racist murder, it was a murder. There wasn't a racist element to it whatsoever. There was no accusation of it or no suggestion of it.
You ask
You didn't know that, did you?
You ask any family where kids are taught to keep their heads down and avoid trouble from the police.
Yeah.
Any family where they're frightened to call the police when they're in danger.
Sorry, what's the point?
My point is that black people don't get the protection they deserve from the police in America, and we need to look at whether or not that is the case.
Well, I mean, but you're perpetrating that, aren't you? You're importing a story that never actually happened from America. You're not alone, by the way. It's not you. The American president joined in with this hysteria as well by pretending it was a racially motivated crime when it absolutely wasn't. But of course, there are other people. 500 white people have died since 2020 at the hands of the police in America. Twice the number of blacks that have died. Now, I know there's a percentage difference in terms of population. There's also a criminal difference in that same percentage as well. I mean, do we look and are we going to have a day in Norwich for Tony Timper? I doubt you even know who Tony Timper is.
Tony Timper, see, so that's obviously another guy that's died, the one I showed you, Timothy Coffey. So that's another fellow. So obviously, and it's different states as well, it's happening.
Would you like to tell me?
He's a white guy.
So he's not. She doesn't even know that. She doesn't care, and she doesn't know that because it's not pushing the Green Party narrative.
In Norwich for Tony Timper. I doubt you even know who Tony Timper is.
Would you like to tell me?
He's a white guy that died under almost the same circumstances as George Floyd. In 2016 in Dallas, he could hardly breathe, he said. 30 times he called out for his life before he took his last breath. Nobody lit up a town hall in Norwich for him.
Well, maybe they should have done. If somebody else...
Yeah, but he was white, so it didn't matter. Just like Laura Horseyface Slater, who is quite happy to celebrate less Scottish white men in the Scottish Parliament.
So to do that, then we should consider it.
But it doesn't remove the confusion we've had.
Not that she's a racist or anything.
Some of your constituents are with us this afternoon, Leslie, and I'm sure you're a nice person. I'm sure some of your colleagues.
I'm sure she's part of the Village Idiot Party.
Who there at Norwich Council? It's just a sense that. Was this the right cause? What's your reason for doing it? And there's a sense this was all about kind of patting yourself on the back a bit, getting involved in something. Racism seems a bit cool. This thing was on the telly quite a lot. That's the one to get.
Anti-white racism is totally acceptable, so we can do as many deep dives on that as possible. It's okay to be racist to especially white men, and especially if you're self-important white women like self-entitled white women like Lorna Slater.
Rather than Manchester or Lee Rigby.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the narrative.
There's nothing cool about racism.
No.
Yeah, but I think it was black guys beheading a white soldier. So I didn't see the Green Party calling that out, or an Arabic guy from Lebanon blowing up 20 children, probably the majority of whom were white indigenous British, but didn't see the Green Party doing anything about that either. Is the Green Party racist against the indigenous population? This is what we need to know.
The cause, the virtuous cause of advancing something that would make you feel better about doing it.
What are you guys saying? All political parties are, they are exceptionally poorly educated, yeah. Driving.
The degree of racism has been exposed by the George Floyd case.
What's the racism like in Norwich? What's the figures looking like over there? Because like looking at your town hall, I'm beginning to think it's like Johannesburg a couple of decades back, but the figures don't seem to bear that out, Leslie.
I think you would have to ask the people who have direct experience of racism, and I don't feel qualified to answer that.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. But do you understand why some people might be confused that you picked this cause above others? I mean, this was a straight case of a very bad, psychopathic even, police officer.
It seems like it's been quite common. There seems to be at least 3 cases of kneeling on the neck, killing people.
Who did bad.
2 of them which were white. 2 white people not even covered.
Being a citizen. The citizen died, the
And
police
he
officer
almost
was
got
going to
away
jail.
with it. And why would have done had there not been the outcry that there was?
Well, that doesn't mean he was going to get away with it, does it? I mean, some people do, some people don't. We will never know that. But he didn't get away with it. He's going to jail.
And it'd be quite interesting to find out if the white officers kneeling the white guy's neck got away with it.
Jail for the rest of his day.
Because obviously there wasn't the publications on the media. She didn't even know about them.
And so he should.
And his colleagues spoke out against him in court. The very people that I would have imagined, Leslie, would argue are also in it up to their neck when it comes to this kind of thing. They all spoke out against him, not for him.
And so they should. But he came close to not getting prosecuted. And I would say that one of the reasons that he did get prosecuted was because of the outcry. What they witnessed and filmed. It could no longer be denied because it was filmed.
Well, indeed, but I mean, that goes for any crime, doesn't it? I mean, that's not exclusive to this. I mean, it was filmed, and therefore that formed the most fantastic evidence.
I think they were all filmed, and the other 2, because there was a white guy, just nothing happened.
Prosecution against him. But nobody is disputing that. My point is that it's lots of people are killed at the hands of a mad person or a person with murderous intent every day around the world. Why did you pick this one particular crime nowhere near Norwich to highlight and go to the extent of lighting up an entire town hall? I mean, it's quite a bit of choreography you had going on there with your light show.
Yeah.
Apologies.
That's all right. I tell you what,
this murder awoke a disgust that was latent and that needs to be there.
Yeah, I don't think people would say it
when
was
somebody is
latent.
murdered by the people who are charged with protecting them.
Yes, yeah, and then that's what happened. That the rule of law presided and was able to send a man to jail for the wrongdoing of killing a citizen.
Yeah, oh well, that's interesting. So, what have we got? What else, Moby? Come on, Moby.
Against the Bomb Coalition. I think on Instagram it says I'm shocked, bald,
Doesn't look like Moby.
occasionally appalled. I'm increasingly middle-aged. I still like to think I'm one of the young ones in Parliament, but it's a bit of denial these days, I think. So I grew up in Dumbarton. I was a bit of an awkward kid. I think probably like a lot of folk before they come out, I didn't socialise a lot. A lot of the other kids feel.
Remember I said there was a gay mafia at the heart of our, and obviously we've got a declining population. So there's nothing wrong with being gay. I'm a liberal. Padge came out, he seems like a nice fella as well on a personal level. But I think if you're gay and then we've got a declining population, that could be an issue. I mean, I don't, not on an individual basis, but if all the higher ranking politicians are all gay and then we find that we're having low birth rates where we're actually now regressing our population and we can only import a new population, then that's an issue.
Knew I was gay before I realised it, and enjoyed giving me a hard time. I was a bit of a sicky child, so I was in and out of York Hill Hospital quite a lot, going in the morning and having one batch of tests and then being taken to somewhere like Kelvin Grove Art Gallery and Museum, or walk around Kelvin Grove Park here, and then back to the hospital. When I first moved to Glasgow, I had a kind of rubbish, low-paid temping job, and I think I made a fairly common mistake of moving in before the landlord gave me a contract. And so when I lost the temping job, he still wouldn't give me a contract, so I couldn't claim housing benefit. And in the end, he turned up with a group of guys and they started removing furniture from the rooms. And
Padge, if that's the worst thing that's happened to you, then
removing doors off the hinges and basically harassed me out of the place. Yeah, so over there is a flat that I got harassed out of by.
Looks nice.
A pretty disreputable landlord. You know, it's one of the experiences that's stayed with me and reminded me to make sure that we're doing what we can to strengthen things like tenants' rights. My mum was always a pretty strong influence politically.
In the Communist Party?
She was a Green activist decades ago before the Greens ever got anyone elected. But it was really when I came back to Glasgow after university, got involved in LGBT youth group.
So the extreme politicisation of the gay community by the neo-Marxists.
As a volunteer, and we got thrown into the middle of the Section 28 campaign.
Because it's all very well being gay, but I don't know if promoting homosexuality is the best way. Obviously, telling people about homosexuality, but the promotion of homosexuality isn't exactly going to increase the birth rate. I also believe that gay people should have access to reproduction rights and fostering. I'm not against that, although I'm a bit worried about, they said it wasn't, but it seems to be going down partly the paedophilic route, which is concerning.
Back in the first days of the Scottish Parliament.
Parts of it is going down the paedophilic route, or the paedophilic group seem to be getting attached to the alphabet people.
Really nasty, kind of homophobic campaign to keep this hangover of the Thatcher government, Section 2A. And I was, with lots of other people, really involved in the campaign to scrap that in the first session of the Scottish Parliament. And that's really what got me thinking I should do more of this, you know. The West End's got a bit of an image of being this kind of more affluent part of Glasgow. Actually, it's very, very mixed. At the last election, we came second in Glasgow Kelvin. We think we can hopefully do better than that this time, win the constituency.
Oh my God, second? What, I mean, these people actually reading the policies?
The campaign that we're running this year, I think, feels more relevant than it ever has before. Obviously, we've always been convinced of issues like the climate and environmental emergencies. Now that all political parties use language like that, talk about net zero, talk about a just transition.
Well, apart from the cars and things, we can't be that far off net zero in Scotland with that amount of electricity being produced by renewables. So obviously cars will be the next thing. I think the buses are already moving to renewable or rechargeable batteries.
The fact that we're the ones showing how that can be made reality, putting detail on it, actually, means that we have something that people are ready to hear. As well, Glasgow Kelvin later this year is where the eyes of the world will be focused when the Global Climate Conference comes to the SEC. That's in this constituency, and I think people are increasingly aware that rhetoric about setting targets and then missing those targets just isn't enough. People do want to see action, and I think increasingly people are convinced that if we take that action, we'll not only protect the environment.
I like his bike. Where's that? Is that pre First World War? What the hell's that?
It's an abstract sense, but it's about human well-being.
He's like a wee gay Lenin.
Well, it's about building a more equal and fair and healthier society.
A more equally define how you're going to get more equal and fair. What is the definition? Tell me actual precise definitions of what you mean by equal, more equal and more unfair. How, in what ways is it unfair? Define your terms. And healthier.
We've done so well in this last session, making a real impact. We've done so well in terms of new volunteers getting involved in the campaign. I'm convinced that we can come out of this election representing every part of Scotland, every single.
Well, we've got 8% of the vote. It's not exactly.
Region can agree MSPs, and if we can do that, this will continue to be a really interesting, exciting, and rewarding.
So, not only if that million votes, second regional votes had gone from the SNP to the Alba Party and also the Scottish Libertarian Party, they would have also been taking votes from the Green Party as well, which would have been brilliant.
Important job to do.
So, let's see this.
I'm not going to waste my votes. Not on any more heel drag.
I can see that lock right through your ears.
Or empty.
I'm actually into alternative things, so I don't mind actually people being a bit alternative. As a libertarian, I vive la différence, so I'm into people being unique. Although I'm a bit conventional.
I'm with the people who, although few, have been on it.
I'm with the village.
Who put our environment over big business.
Yeah, we know that, and that's why you'd be a disaster for Scotland, because not only would you reduce tax receipts, tax returns by your stupid business policies, you would also want to overspend, and the only way you could do that, because you probably reduce the amount of taxation from corporations, is to borrow, which would make the country more indebted. So even though I agree with you on certain parts of the on a lot of the environmental stuff, your failure to recognise business and economics is probably why you're very much far left, because you don't seem to understand anything about economics and the over importance of the environment over everything else is an issue. And that's why you're better not being in power. If somebody else took on all your environmental issues, but was also pro-business.
Our native mountain hares over the wealth of layers.
And I'm into rewilding as well.
Stop the money-grabbing hands that plan to turn Loch Lomond's iconic beauty into luxury resort ticket.
I would like to see a luxury resort in Loch Lomond. I think that would have been beneficial. That would have been, as long as it was done. You could have log cabins and things that were environmental sound, outdoor saunas and things like that. It could have been done environmentally, which would have been great. But yeah, you can do things that are environmental and still be corporate.
Kids. I'm with the people who are fighting for our kids.
Oh well, that's just abstract, isn't it? Peter Smith thinks he's fighting for the kids.
One free bus travel for our young people.
Right, it's not free, so you're going to take people's taxation to pay for your bus fares.
So they can get to the future
they would probably be better taking the taxpayers' money and paying for entrepreneurs to build businesses where you would get employed in so you could pay for your own bus fares. How about that?
They deserve with the exam results they've earned.
No, you're not going to have any exam results. You've just been locked in for 16 months, and we nippies put a real spoke in this generation's education, which is going to be reflected when we see the report from on Scottish Education, International Report on Scottish Education.
Some postcode lottery where income defines outcome.
I don't think that goes. It depends on your talents as well.
I'm with the people who get things done.
Okay.
Because I want the kind of politics that skips school on a Friday to strike for our climate.
Yeah, I shouldn't skip school.
It's dire.
It's not going to really matter. I've tried to tell you this, and I don't think the Greens are listening. It's not going to matter if you skip school to protest unless we fly you all out to China, which we'll still need to have, unless you can change the way that a plane actually takes off and lands. That's maybe something you could concentrate on, do something positive. How you would propel a plane or any other carrying device without CO2 emissions, without the use of fossil fuels, because we'll still need to get from point A to point B by plane. Not all of us can take boats, and even boats, unless there are different propellant methods, we would still have to get from point A to point B.
As that necessity is. Politics that fights ridiculous benefit sanctions. Sustainable, green-fueled politics with roots in our communities.
Greenfield. Well, as I said, we've already looked at it. We're at 90% renewable energy. We would have to tackle transportation, whether it be flights or even cars. That's where the focus would have to be. So you going and strike is not going to make any difference unless you go and strike in China or America or India. That's where you need to go and strike for CO2 emissions, or help them out to reduce their CO2 emissions by developing things that will help them identify what is how they're producing it, and try and help them mitigate their CO2 emissions, and ask them to plant more trees.
Hardest hit by Tory austerity.
Yeah, Tory austerity, or getting locked in your house for 18 months. That's never a benefit thing from Dr. Fauci's sponsored food chain lab leakage.
Politics that acknowledges that tenants need more protection, and we have a housing system with urgent repairs.
Yeah, I think we have to reintroduce the right to buy.
Needing fixed. People over profit. Robin Hood.
People over profit, that doesn't make sense. And again, your anti-business agenda, like we nippies, is reducing our ability to earn money. We need a high-tech, high-growth, environmental, but high-tech, high-growth business society that is going to generate money and generate wealth for the country, as well as being environmentally friendly at the same time. But the fact that none of you have ever ran a business is probably why you don't know how the money is going to be generated. All you're doing is spending large amounts on just renationalising things, which is going to be a complete waste of time, or handing out money for the UBI to rich people who probably don't need it. Tax them, then give them the money back, then tax them again. It's just mental. Your ideas are mental.
Politics that says help those in need and eat the rich.
Great. Great, I don't think you can say that.
Tax.
Eat the rich, so we don't like people getting on. We have a pathological left-wing repulsion to people being successful because maybe we can't do it.
Tax rich.
Yeah, but if you tax the rich too much, they can just leave and take their businesses with them. So maybe we don't want to tax too much, or maybe if we reduce taxation, that will actually, perversely, but increase tax receipts.
We're the people fighting for not just an independent Scotland, but an independent Scotland that's fairer and greener.
Fairer for who? Fairer for who? You keep saying the word fairer. What do you politically define as fairer? What is it that's unfair? You have to define your you've got to put it in context and define your terms.
Where we can make our own decisions about the European Union.
Yeah, we don't want to be part of a 20 unelected commissioners dictating our legislation. No thanks, not democratic, and we're not interested. No thanks.
We're the people who are proud of our country's diversity.
What diversity? We're 96% Scottish, or something ridiculous like that. We don't have, what are we talking, wildlife diversity? What diversity? Diversity of what? Context, terms, explain yourself.
And believe that from the workplace to the streets, discrimination has no place here.
We all discriminate. Every day somebody discriminates. You discriminated that you thought it was a good idea to put those curtain poles through your ears. That everything is a discrimination. If I go for a job and somebody else goes for a job, the employer has to discriminate. If he's only got one position, there's two potential employees. There's discrimination all the time. Will never go away. It is part of life, discrimination. You discriminated to wear that yellow hoodie from your pink hoodie or whatever it was. The discrimination is an inherent condition.
We're the people who, when faced with fellow humans...
It sounds like you guys discriminate, though. It sounds like you guys are the actual the racist. Now that I think back, the other stupid woman who's lighting up for George Floyd, but not lighting up for other people. It sounds like you guys discriminate. It sounds like when I was listening to Laura Slater that she's quite happy with diversity of women, more women, anybody else other than white men, white Scottish men in the actual parliament. That's what she sounds quite happy about. So it sounds like you do discriminate, you just pick your victims.
In refuge, say, our door is open, the kettle's on.
And nobody's home. The village idiots.
Ready to do things differently.
Because we are communists and it's never worked and it will never work in the future.
We have the resources. And when we stand together, we have seen the numbers. We are the people who take to the streets with fervour and anger, banter.
Yeah, and mentalness.
Banners to the bell against our planet's extinction.
Go to China.
To chant that our trans siblings should feel safer, that Black Lives Matter.
Communists, see, communists. Capitalism is racist. Black Lives Matter.
This voice of Labour and Youth. If you're not already, obviously go over to all our social media channels, give us a like and subscribe.
Marxist Youth. So not happy with killing 100 million people. We've got Beta Boy here with the new Marxist appeal.
Cast Marxist Voice on any major platform in order to get future episodes with interviews, theory, history and current events and analysis. And
I'm sure that's
onto the streets across the whole of the UK
history of
in response to the events over in America with the murder of George Floyd and the police brutality and the protests that we've seen there.
Yeah, but you didn't mention anything about the other two deaths that we've covered on this.
But more than that, really, striking a chord with youth in Britain who've come out, despite the pandemic, onto the streets to protest against all of these injustices.
That didn't happen here.
Inequalities.
Didn't happen here.
And tonight we're going to be joined by Fiona Lark.
Just pushing the Marxist agenda when you've killed 100 million people. You're probably in the Green Party.
Ali, the national organiser of the Marxist Student Federation, is going to be talking to us about the protests in Britain, about the Black Lives Matter movement in Britain, its effects, why we're seeing such a huge movement over here in the UK, and most importantly, what the way forward is in the fight against racism and for socialism.
So we have to fight against racism. So anybody who is not a socialist is a racist? Is that the... So, you de facto, if you're not a communist, which these guys have killed 100 million people and don't support your communism, which has never worked anywhere and is now failing in Cuba as well, you're this racist. Obviously, it's the human race, and this is a term we've seen popularised by Trotsky, which he's got on his bookshelf here. And he can just push anybody who doesn't agree with me as a racist, and but we're the real racists because we only push from one agenda, through one agenda, one people. Not to mention the 1.7 million Ethiopians that were starved to death under the communist regime. Didn't care about black lives there.
Further ado, let me bring in Fiona. Hang on one sec. Hi Fiona, can you hear us okay?
Hi, yeah, I can. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you. Nice to see you. How are you doing in lockdown? Are you okay?
Yeah, not bad. Same as everyone, I think.
Marxist Student Federation. I wonder if you could get a National Socialist organisation in the UK. I wonder if that would be allowed in the universities.
Well, thanks.
So 100 million that died under communism is that's, well, you know, who cares? But obviously, I don't know what the difference would be from the two socialist brands, whether National Socialist, who's killed less people than the Marxists. But obviously, we've got Cheery Face here who thinks the 100 million people dead's just a blip.
For joining us tonight to discuss about these massive protests we've seen. As I was just saying to the audience a minute ago, these are really unprecedented
communists on our streets
that we're seeing in terms of the size and the scope.
Didn't happen here. None of that happened. None of the things that's going on actually happened here.
Of these protests, these demonstrations. We've had reports in to socialist.net from activists, supporters across the country, and all of them
from the Green Party
describe these protests as being some of the biggest that they've seen in history, basically.
None out for any of the two white guys that died from nailed on the net because it doesn't affect their racist their racist communism. Very similar to National Socialism, slightly different in the economics, but both race-based ideologies that killed hundreds of millions of people. But yeah, we're now repackaging it with these clowns from Black Lives Matter.
In some small town.
Which, I mean, the incident didn't even happen in the UK, so I don't even know why. But obviously the communists will make hay while the sun shines.
Towns, but also obviously in the big cities, in Manchester, Bristol, in London as well, you've seen huge protests. And I just want to start then, I guess, by asking you what you think these protests represent, because...
the Marxist takeover, deliberate Marxist takeover by the Conservative Party that have facilitated this.
The Tories have tried to claim that these are just solidarity protests, nothing more, just in response to the events in America, to the racism in America. Do you think that's true? Do you think these represent something deeper than that?
Yeah, well, I think that, well, I guess first of all, it's so encouraging.
Yes, super. I'm a definite champagne Marxist. Yes, it's lovely.
These protests, as far as they've gone all throughout lots of different towns and places in the UK, and the size of them is evidence to the contrary of what the Tories are saying, right? We had Matt Hancock. He did come out and say that, exactly as you said, that these protests...
Champagne Marxist. Hey, I've had enough of her. It's quite enough, right? So are we nearly finished with this?
Extinction. To chant that our trans siblings should feel safer, that Black Lives Matter. We're the people who demand better from our politicians.
Now, there's hardly... I mean, there's probably more now because we nippies letting anybody and everybody in. But, I mean, when I was growing up, there was... The only black people you would see, Scottish black people, were in Glasgow. Certainly not where I was growing up. And this has only happened because of the globalist shill parties who believe in open door immigration. There was very few black people in Scotland, very few. And so all of this is not relative. All of this is only relative from the postmodernist Marxian lens, which is obviously what the Green Party are looking through.
But for all we petition and lobby, it's with ballot slips and X's. That's where the real
yeah, we're going to bring in postmodernist Marx's green agenda, yeah, that's going to be very beneficial in Scotland. Well, as I said, we're nearly finished with the green agenda is nearly going to die. The green agenda will just be protests about other countries polluting the planet, or us giving them, but it'll become fringe. All these people are communists, postmodernist communists. That's what they are.
And I think we all know, as we feel sea levels rise around the feet of our coastal community.
Yeah, which is not even zero emissions, even for the whole of the UK, is not going to fix, if it is population driven, is not going to fix the environment until the large polluters are India, China and the US are actually brought their CO2 down. So none of that, if it is that, is going to make any difference. So your party's a waste of time in Scotland, virtually now. The only thing is getting renewables. All the rest of it's just far left socialism. And we've already done it and it doesn't work. So we'll be able to smash that easily. I could smash it easily on a one-to-one. That's probably why Laura Slater doesn't want to talk to me.
Swallow another breakfast of British Brexit horror story news, and here again of a
British Brexit horror story news. The only horror story is COVID.
Has to choose between topping off the lecky and food.
So we're talking about negative income tax again, which I'm on board with.
Our kids, we need an alternative.
And it's not socialism, which is what you're trying to push.
I'm not going to waste my vote.
Well, I think you have voting green. You've got wee Mo being Lorna Horsey face.
I think we all know we've wasted too much time as it is. My name's Gray.
Yeah, voting green. We're nearly done anyway, guy, bud, girl, whoever. We're nearly finished. Once we actually stop the cars or get new cars, it's not really much else to do. Plant more trees. You can do that on an individual basis as well. You don't have to wait for the state to do it. Just go out and plant a tree. Plant a few trees. Plant trees every day. Do what you want. Increase the number of trees and that will soak up the CO2.
And that's great. Vote's green.
Yeah, they're nearly finished. We're nearly finished. They've not got any other future issues apart from the postmodernist Marxist gender and race theories. So I don't think I'll be voting for them. Let's see the Scottish Manifesto. Motley Crue. We're not all lesbians. I'm not going through all that tonight. I might go through it again later. In fact, I think I'll actually do that, the Green Manifesto. I'll actually do it tomorrow, or not tomorrow, well, no, maybe during the week. Then we'll go through the Green Manifesto. Scotland can be greener. Okay. So that's what we'll do. I'll leave that there, and I think we'll cover the Green Manifesto. Let's download this. Okay, say I can't save. Oh. So I'll get that later on. Right, my baby gorillas. That's been long. Having had the chat with me tonight, and we're out.